invocation, and Commissioner Pickens, if he would lead us in the pledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us bow our heads. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come today as the citizens of this great community, seeking direct wisdom from your throne room. Father, we need it today. We need to make right decisions today. We need to involve as many people in these decisions as we can. And Father, we just look for you for guidance. Let us all put aside anything that would hinder us today. Let us keep an open mind. Let us listen twice as much as we're going to talk. And Lord, let us just, at the end of this meeting, come to an agreement that will move Putnam County forward in a positive manner. Father, we ask everything in our Savior and Lord Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey and Commissioner Pickens, for that. I'm going to change the agenda around a little bit this morning or this afternoon. And the reason that I'm going to do it, I think that our presentation needs to come before public comment. That way the comments can go over and then I'm going to make some comments before the public comment, where those comments can actually be taken into consideration under public comment section of this agenda. So instead of hearing comments for a long time, Jacob, if you'd go ahead and let everybody in that's in the waiting room, that would be just fine. Well, that's fine. If you'll let them in, we'll, before we start our presentation this morning, everybody that's just joining us for the meeting, would you please mute, once you join the meeting, would you please mute yourself? Anyone who has just joined the meeting, could you please mute yourself? Thank you. I had just finished saying that for the 13 people that just joined the meeting, I'm going to vary from the agenda today, and I'm going to have a presentation this afternoon. And on top of the presentation, I'm going to make comments, and then we're going to open it up for public comment at that time, where you can comment on the presentations along with the comments that were made. And any commissioner that wishes to at that time to make comments before public comment can do so, or they're welcome to wait until after public comment to do so. It's at your discretion, commissioners. So yes, Commissioner Harvey.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a little bit of clarification on something, or just my interpretation? I would like to see at the end of this presentation, and when the commissioners start deliberating, before we start putting motions out there, maybe we could hear from every commissioner their thought before we have somebody that's voted down that might have a good thought that we didn't think about. It's up to your discretion, Mr. Chairman, but I just really feel like I need to hear from all my commissioners today to help me through this decision. Thank you, sir.
I think that's an excellent idea, Commissioner Harvey, and that's where I was trying to get at. I just wanted to make some comments before public comment where that could be reacted on also. But I think that's an excellent idea. Before we just start throwing out motions at the end, we actually have a deliberation. I think that's an excellent idea. Thank you. And with that being said, I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Pickens at the college, who is going to represent the Common Cause group for their presentation. Mr. Pickens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I hear you fine.
Okay, it's my understanding that we have 20 minutes for the presentation. I don't think we'll take that long, but is there some method by which we'll know when our time is up or approaching to be up?
If you'd like, I'll sure let you know.
Okay. All right, so what we want to do is I'm gonna start, and then I'm gonna ask Pastor Flagg to join me as he has with his comments, and then I'll conclude. And thank you for the opportunity to present to you. We represent a group called Operation Common Ground that came together out of a genuine care for our community. The same kind of care that led each one of the 5 of you to offer yourself up for public service in the first place. A common bond that I share with you, as does Pastor Flagg. It's our hope today to have a conversation with you about common ground at a time in our county when there appears to be little. I've spoken at length with 4 of you, and I've heard out of your mouths the things that you are hearing within our community. On one side, protests, and protests before even an attempt at conversation with you ever occurred. Lists of demands, including moving a monument, cutting down a tree, renaming a courthouse, allegations of racism, both covert and overt, with our county. On the other side, and it's a shame that that's the way it is depicted, we have counter protests, allegations of racism, comments such as you're either with us or you're with them. What will they want next, whoever they happen to be? What do we get in return? I did not create any of those statements. I only heard them from others within the community who had spoken to you. We hope to provide common ground within that great divide that I just defined for you from the mouths of people within this community. We hope to provide an opportunity for the preservation and protection of the rights of both sides in our community. We also want to provide an opportunity for us to take control of this issue. Even as we observe more and more people from outside the county on both sides of the issue, perfectly willing to come into our county and impose their will upon us. We've already witnessed that. I'm not much for reading, except for in the case when somebody says something and puts it down far better than I possibly can. And this is one of those cases, so please bear with me about this portion of us. To us, it is clear that the statute has become a symbol or focal point of the racial tension which currently divides our country and our community. Regardless of your individual perspective regarding the intent of those who erected the statute, to us it is clear that, 1, the statute is perceived by some segments of the community as representative of the mindset and attitude toward people of color which existed at the time of the Civil War, and which in the most extreme form condoned and or supported slavery. Maintaining the statute at its current location along the sidewalk which leads to the main entrance, now the only entrance, to the place where all people ultimately go to seek justice when all efforts to obtain it through other means have failed, is also perceived by the same segment of the community as especially offensive. Given the atmosphere that exists in the country today in what might be called the post-George Floyd era, it's unlikely that the issue of the statute, and more particularly its location, is going to simply fade away. Instead of fading away, frankly, it's likely that the issue of the statute will continue to be a rallying cry for those on both sides of the issue. and that events such as the recent protests and counter-protests will reoccur, but may very well increase in intensity, with results that are at best troubling and at worst tragic. Some would argue that the statute is a matter of politics and that it's controversial and not one about which organizations such as our Putnam County Chamber of Commerce should become involved. But they did. Because like us, we take the position, like them, we take the position that while many say the statute and its meaning is a matter of perception, the reality is that the statute may ultimately become the symbol by which Putnam County, our community, is characterized by the outside world, to include those considering an investment in our community. As cities and counties increasingly move to remove or relocate monuments and murals similar to the statute, those few counties left, such as Baker County and us, which maintain murals and statues outside or inside the courthouse, stand alone. Even if this distinction does not ultimately result in actual and physical racial strife, it almost impossibly will foster or encourage the lack of economic growth, the lack of outside investment, and even population growth. As a microcosm, the protest and counter-protest occurred on moving day for the athletes at St. John's River State College, many of whom with their families were coming here for the very first time. And those that came from the south went by the courthouse, turned left on 20, and went by both the protest and the counter-protest. Many of them were concerned about sending their son and daughter to Putnam County in the first place, but they had already made that decision. And frankly, some were aghast at what they witnessed. If people who have made a decision to come here are concerned about what they witnessed in our county on that Saturday, imagine how people who are trying to make a decision about coming to our county or not might feel. I now ask Pastor Flagg to share his thoughts with you, and thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and County Commissioners, and to all that are concerned. I am humbled and delighted to have opportunity to speak with our community from the perspective of Operation Common Ground. I think we can do so much more. The expression teamwork, make the dream work, is one that I believe in. We are grateful to have leaders who are listening, leaders who want to do the right thing at all times. And you can only do it based upon the information that is provided to you. My position as I look at all of these things, first of all, I didn't pick my race, you didn't pick yours. All of us are human, and I think that that is a point that needs to stand out in everybody's heart and soul. Preservation and relocation of a monument that have stood for multiple generations ought to be on everybody's radar. It's not about destruction. It's not about erasure. This is about preservation and relocation, simply because the center of civil justice, the center of criminal justice, all of those things is what happened at the courthouse, and not just our courthouse, but any courthouse. There are many different symbols in today's time. There are many different acronyms, and depending on what profession that you're in, one acronym may be a positive thing to one group and another acronym is a negative to another. I just want all of us to work together, to play together, to pray together, to live together, and do God's will together. And I believe that all of us, for the most part, that's really what we want. But I think that at some point in time, when we recognize that this is not a popularity contest, this is not an opportunity for a tug of war, to create divide in our community, we don't have to be rocket scientists to figure out there is a gulf that is created, regardless of who are contributors to this. There's a gulf between classes of people, religions, denominations, things of that nature. But how do we become a part of the solution rather than to exacerbate the actual problem. I just want the record to reflect that all people are important, all perspectives are important, but at the end of the day, leadership must take responsibility to say, I've heard from various sides, I've heard the discussions pro and con, I've heard from the left, I've heard from the right, I've heard from the front, I've heard from the back, but at the end of the day, did you hear from God? Did you hear the voice of tranquility? Did you hear the voice of reason? Did you hear what it takes to create a peaceful environment in this our community? I just know that if we work together, we can accomplish anything that we need to accomplish. I'm concerned about the future of our nation and world, but I am specifically concerned about Putnam County, Florida, the place that I was born on the corner of 17th and Eagle Street 60 plus years ago, the place that I was educated, the place that I earned my living, the place that I served the people. And I serve people of all races, colors, and creeds. And I'm equally concerned about my white brothers and sisters as I am my black and brown brothers and sisters. And I just need us to make sure that when we are deliberating and discussing these issues, that factions, the things that we differ on don't need to divide us. The things that we see differently, we just need conversation. We need to be able to come together and recognize and realize that nobody needs an ultimatum. And I hope and pray that this commission doesn't feel like anyone has given them an ultimatum, because at the end of the day, you have the authority to make the decisions. And I just believe that when we look at the total picture of where we are, where we've come from, where we need to go, that we're all going to be on common ground and we're going to work this together. So I'm praying for peace of mind among the people. And I want all of us to strengthen the relationships that we have so that at the end of the day, people from all walks of life will be coming to Putnam County because of who we are and what we do. The times have changed. The times have changed. We need to adapt, we need to adjust, and we need to do the things that we need to do to make us better, to make us stronger, to make us wiser. My daughter wrote a letter that touched my heart, and I didn't know that she was writing the letter. I didn't know exactly what all she was going to say, but I want to share that very quickly, some excerpts from it with you. She opens by saying, I've had the awesome privilege, and that's Carla Flagg Wright, the awesome privilege of being born, raised, and educated in Putnam County, so that my husband and I have chosen to afford the same opportunity to our children. Growing up, my sister and I were taught by our parents to love all people without discrimination. We were taught to treat everyone fairly and to also ensure that we were equally treated fairly. We were taught that everyone in the community was considered as our neighbors. Lastly, we were taught to always positively represent God, our family, and our community at every moment. The Putnam County Courthouse is a place of employment, not always a place of enjoyment. However, many citizens go in and out of there seeking justice. Again, seeking justice. So we just want any lightning rod or anything that would cause any discord or discontent among any of our citizens to be moved from the center of justice. Preservation and relocation is our dream. No destruction, no rioting, no funny business, no hate speech, none of those things. That's counterproductive. And I believe that Putnam County is above that, but we have to prove it each day based upon the choices we make and the people that we know. And I encourage all of us, get out of your comfort zone, get out of your box, and get to know people that you don't know, and don't take anybody's word for that. I love all of us, and I want all of us to work together to make our community a model for the rest of our nation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Flagg, and thank you, Mr. Pickens, for that presentation on your view of the issue.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes,
do we have a couple of minutes left?
if you would like, Commissioner Pickens. Yes, or sorry, brother to Commissioner Pickens.
Thank you. So commissioners, we also believe the decision is yours to make. as elected constitutional officers, as I once was. So we share the brotherhood of having held up our right hand and put the other on a Bible and taken an oath to protect the interests of all of our constituents, including that of the minority. Referendums, by their very nature, don't protect the rights or interests of the minority. You, the 5 of you, have that unique responsibility that you've earned by running for office. When you hear Marco Rubio running for president in the next few years, you're going to hear him say a lot, that all a parent wants for their children is a life better than their own. That was just reflected, frankly, in a father's reading of his daughter's letter. For 100 years, minorities in general and African Americans in particular, their life hasn't improved in Putnam County if it involved a trip to the courthouse. It hasn't improved if it involved a trip to seek justice in their community, in their county, in their America. Because they had to walk by a statute that reminded them of something that was offensive to them. I'm asking you, we're asking you to remove that to a place where it can be revered by those who want to see it and not be there for folks who just simply want justice. You have the constitutional authority to assess the will of the majority and at the same time to ensure that everyone, including the minority, enjoys liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pickens, for that presentation. Like I said earlier, I'd like to make a comment, and it's probably not in the order on the agenda, and I hope the other commissioners feel like it's appropriate. I've given this issue a lot of thought, and like all the other commissioners I know have too. And just to throw it out there as part of the public comment, I think we should move it. But I think we should move it to Veterans Park in East Palatka, to another predominantly a place that a monument would be absolutely upheld with the most of honor, with it being in our Veterans Park. With that being said, I think that the lawyers that decided to stick their nose in this business and the businessmen that decided they wanted to take a stance and the protesters who want it moved, I think every one of them need to pony up a check. I don't care if it's $10. I don't care how much it is, but I think that we need to raise money, private money, to move that statue to Veterans Park in East Palatka, where it doesn't cost the taxpayers any dollars to move it. And I wanted to bring that out ahead of the discussion today. And the only reason why is because I wanted it to be part of the discussion from public comment as part of the meeting. So that's the reason I went out of order. And but I think that would be a great place to put it on the other side of the bridge in East Palatka on the Veterans Park. So with that being said, I'm going to start public comment. But before I read the public comment statement, I'm going to make another statement of my own. This meeting is going to be in order. We are going to go one by one. If you want to speak, you're more than welcome to speak. I'd like your comments, if possible, to remain at 3 minutes each, like I am fixing to read. If your screen name is a phone number or does not give your name, I need you to start. Even if it does give your name for the record, I need you to start by giving us your name and your address for the record before you start your public comment. With that being said, this portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the board, to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of this agenda. Again, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Before I start that, is there any commissioners that would like to add a comment before public comment?
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay, Commissioner Goddard.
I want to bring up history. History is sometimes very painful, but we change. We change and we grow. Our ancestors lived in caves, but we changed and we grew. In medieval times, people maybe bathed once or twice a year, but we changed and we grew. And at one time, people all over were forced into slavery, but we changed and we grew. With that, I'm just going to throw this out there. I've spent a lot of time with this, and I'm afraid if it goes on the ballot, we're going to disenfranch a lot of people, I honestly believe that statue should stay on courthouse property, but moved out of the walkway. It needs to be moved over in its own little area of representation, just like the rest of the monuments that represent wars that we shouldn't have done, but we did. It was a part of time that we need to move on and get past. But it's not history that we need to go and put a blind eye up to. It did happen. It did happen. And we need to honor those who died for what they believed in. And I believe it needs to stay there on the courthouse property, owned by the county, but not where people have to walk by it every day, going to take care of their business at the courthouse. That's all I have to say.
Is there any other commissioners that would like to make a comment before we take public comment?
I'd like to ask some questions.
Okay.
Who are the individuals that make up Common Ground?
Well, that would be up to Common Ground to come up with them. They gave us a list of them. Joe, would you mind reading that list?
I've not received that list.
Okay, it's part of the record. They submitted it as part of the record. I just decided not to read it, but Mr. Pickens can certainly read it. Do you have a copy of it, Joe?
I do. And we did submit it, I think, to Laura Parsons today.
You did, and she asked me did I want to read it, and I said no. I thought that should be up to you if you'd like to.
I can. The list of folks that have authorized us to use their names specifically in connection with the proposals of Operation Common Ground are Robert Mills, Carl Flagg, Breck Sloan, Ben Bates, Don Holmes, Joe Pickens, Carol Pickens, Jim and Susan McCool, Dan Martinez, Gilbert Evans, Melissa Miller, Kelly Smith, Karen Hughes, C.L. Overtur, Cynthia Asia, John L. Williams, James Vickers.
Thank you. And you guys approached the chamber prior to the chamber producing their letter, obviously. They said that they were, in their letter, they say that they were approached by a group of business leaders. And I guess I'm trying to figure out what exactly makes a business leader, because some of the names that you clicked off aren't actually in business. So it just, you'd say that you've met with 4 of the 5 commissioners. I'm obviously the one that you haven't met with, so you and I haven't had a chance to discuss this. But one of the things that concerns me is that in trying to get equal representation and deliberation, this group and a lot of the folks in this, I would say probably an overall majority of them are members of the chamber, get multiple bites at the apple. So I guess for me, I'm just a little bit frustrated that they come in as Common Ground, but then they also send a letter to the commission saying the chamber wants this as well. And then you also got some members that are part of the Putnam County Bar Association. It almost seems to me like they're trying to get an overwhelming bite at this apple where everybody just gets one seat at the table. So I just want to make that comment. Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Commissioner. Is there any other commissioner that would like to speak before we move into public comment? Okay, seeing none at this point, we're going to move into public comment. And let me reiterate, this meeting is going to stay orderly. If it gets to the point where it's not orderly anymore, we will close the meeting and send out another Zoom link and start over from scratch. So everybody that's here is welcome to speak. I ask you to do it in an orderly manner and also as much as possible. So if anybody that knows how to raise their hand, I see Richard has already got his hand raised. So I'm going to call on you first. If anybody knows how to raise their hand, fine. If you don't, then wave at me or whatever, and I will call upon you to do it. And Mr. Siegel, if you will start us off, sir, I see you raise your hand. You're muted, Richard.
Okay, there we go.
Got you.
Sorry
now.
about that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for the introductory remarks from the commission. It helps frame what's going to be said. I have given the commission a copy of a resolution passed by the Putnam County Democratic Executive Committee, which met on August 10th to discuss taking a position or not on this matter. We took a position. You have a copy of the full resolution. The points that I would like to cover separate from that, just for the public discussion, is a reminder that the Confederate States of America had a constitution. And within that constitution, it very explicitly advocated for slavery, and it did so in the context of its time, in which most of the European nations were abandoning and outlawing slavery and the slave trade. The Confederate States of America very specifically talked about the maintenance of slavery and the perpetuation of slavery and the expansion of slavery into other territories on the North American continent. This was done in a manner that would satisfy the Europeans, saying they're not part of the slave trade. But in reality, what they did was create a situation in which the slaves in the South were being treated as a breeding population for more slaves. And this was something that was very clearly within the Constitution, and I invite anyone to take a look at it. It's there. We now, in our day and age, are very specific. We are against human trafficking. We are against kidnapping. We're against the separation of children from their parents. In fact, we have the opposite direction, in which we believe that all children should be with their parents as long as it is part of their development process and for the betterment of their growth. The issue of the cause is what I'm addressing, not the soldiers. They fought for the country that they belong to. The issue, though, is the cause. And the cause is what is referred to on the statue's pedestal. That is inappropriate with the values that were there to be on public ground, and particularly public ground that contains our courthouse. We respectfully request that the Board of County Commissioners cause the statue to be removed from the courthouse property and removed from public property given to some organization to do with as it sees appropriate, to deal with the history of the soldiers, let them have full recognition for that. But anything dealing with the cause is inappropriate on public property. I thank the commission for listening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel, for your comments. Who would like to go next?
Heber Newsom would like to.
Okay, please go next, Mr. Newsom.
Thank you, sir. My name is Sieber Newsom III, and I was born and raised in Jacksonville. I live in Yulee, Florida now. I've been to Palatka many times, the Blue Crab Festival. Spent a lot of money down there. Been to Angels many times, and had the 1 pound hamburger. I'd like to say, you know, a lot of people who work, I'm retired, so I can be on Zoom. But a lot of people who work won't be able to be on Zoom today. And you can live in Alaska and you can be on Zoom. You can write an email from Alaska. All of that is fine, but it does not represent the people of Putnam County. The only way that you can find out how the people, the voters of Putnam County feel, is to let them vote on it. If they want it moved, if they vote and say move it, then move it. If they vote and say leave it where it is, then leave it where it is. That's the only, and I'm stressing this, the only fair way to find out how your constituents, the people who voted for you, how they really feel. That's the only way to do it. And I'd like to say, in other cities like Jacksonville and St. Augustine and Gainesville, Jacksonville, 77% of the people polled by Gravis Marketing Research Firm, nationally recognized, said leave the Confederate monuments where they were. St. Augustine, it was 87%. Gainesville, over 70%. All these cities where they've been taken down, the people, when polled, want them to stay. But the commissioners don't care what the people want. They do what they want, which is not right. They're not elected to do what they want. They're elected to do what the people want. And I hope that y'all take that in consideration, what the people want, not what you individually want. That monument was dedicated in 1924 on Armistice Day, later known as Veterans Day, for the end of World War I. It was dedicated on that day for a reason, for sectional reconciliation. And a monument, it does not shoot anyone. It does not stop someone from getting a job. It does not stop one from bettering their life, or their lot in life. It doesn't do any of that. But some people they want to blame someone or something for their misfortune in life. And so they blame a piece of marble, a stone, saying, oh, that monument is stopping me from doing this or that. That's not true. Whatever your life is about and what you make of your life is your own responsibility. You can't blame someone else for that. And the gentleman said earlier, does the minority opinion mean more than the majority's opinion? Is that the way we are in America today? That the minority's opinion means more than the majority's opinion? That's not the America, and I'm 64. That's not the America I grew up in. Everybody's opinion matters, but I would think that if more people want something, that means more than if less people want something. I mean, that's just logical, in my opinion. And I did like the idea that the gentleman put up about maybe moving it to another spot on the courthouse grounds as a compromise. But as we all know, the people on the other side, they don't want to compromise. That's just the way it is. I mean, I've known that for the last 5 years. They just don't want to compromise. So it's going to either be moved or that's it. They don't want to compromise. But that was a pretty good idea. I did like that. But I still think you need to put it on the ballot and let all the people of Putnam County vote on it. Your constituents will remember this. They'll remember what you do. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom. Next, we're going to move to Mrs. Cottrell. I see she has her hand raised. Please continue. You're muted on us still, Amy.
Unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. I've got you. Thank you.
All right, great. My name is Amy Cottrell. I currently live in St. Augustine as of a year ago. I was born and raised in Putnam. My family has been there for 4 generations. I am the 4th generation from Palatka. Even though I am not a resident here, it's very important to me. I'm in favor of moving the statue to the Westview Cemetery, or, I think Terry Turner had a good point too. We can move it to any place, really. But at the Westview Cemetery, we have several other Confederate soldiers buried. This has been a reoccurring issue all my life. I can remember discussing this at Jenkins Middle School when I was growing up. When statues go up, they have different meanings for different people. For some, it's a celebration of Southern heritage. I'm also proud to be a Florida native. It is our birthright to be a little crazy and strong-willed, and that is something to be proud of. However, we should acknowledge when our ancestors were not honorable. Now is a chance to bring people together by acknowledging the ways that the Black community has been subjugated so that we can actually make amends. We never properly healed, and it seems to me that we are still fighting a race war. I have heard arguments from people who want to keep it up, and I understand how you can be proud of some things about being Southern, because me too. However, I believe that if it was not for everything that happened after the Civil War in the Black community, no one would really have an issue. This is why the statue is and has been controversial. There was a time in American history known as the Radical Reconstruction era, between the years 1867 and 1877. A total of 265 African American delegates were elected, more than 100 of whom had been born into slavery. 16 African Americans served in the U.S. Congress during Reconstruction, and Black men were allowed to vote. In 1865, William T. Sherman issued Special Field Order Number 15, which confiscated property, a strip of coastline stretching from the Charleston, South Carolina, to the St. Johns River, and would be redistributed to the Black community. The immediate effect of Sherman's order provided the settlement of roughly 40,000 Blacks. However, this order was rescinded by Andrew Johnson when he took President Lincoln's place after he was assassinated. The land was supposed to go to the Black community, but it went back to the planters that already owned it. After the Radical Reconstruction era, we had many racists in power. Former Confederate soldiers and their children held prominent positions in Florida government, like Sidney Katz, whose father was a Confederate captain. The Klan in Florida went after the Black community and any Republican that supported them. In Jackson County, there was a war between the citizens and the Klan between 1869 and 1871. They assassinated the county clerk and terrorized the town for 3 years. During the first half of the 1900s, we would see a rise in lynchings in Florida. In Ocoee in 1920, south of Apopka, there was a massacre of Black voters that is known as the Election Day Massacre. In 1923, there was the Rosewood Massacre east of Cedar Key. Many of the survivors ended up in Gainesville. In 1924, our statue would come up outside of the courthouse. One group of Florida legislators called the Pork Chop Gang, led by Charlie Johns, a Democrat from Stark, led a committee that would push a segregationist agenda, including a bill that would have closed Florida's public schools down rather than integrate.
All right, we don't need a history here.
Charlie Johns became governor of Florida in 1953 with the support of the KKK. He would assume power when Dan McCarthy died. The Pork Chop Gang would block vote to push their agenda during the 50s and the 60s, and you wonder why the tension between our communities still exists. It was not until Leroy Collins became governor.
Amy,
yes, sir.
Can we start wrapping it up, please? We're about 4.5 minutes.
Oh, my words. I'm sorry. Let me move down after the history. You guys can just fact check me on the history. We have a lot of history. I think that moving the Confederate monuments is not about changing the history. It's about acknowledging Black history. If we had everyone on board for removing them, it would have been a powerful symbol for the year 2020. Unfortunately, we have learned different lessons this year. Nevertheless, I'm still going to fight for my vision for a more inclusive community. I think it would be wise for our leadership to consider all of the people and be sensitive to those who have been oppressed and subjugated. As for the tree, I think it would be interesting if the root system could be moved and studied by scientists. I know the Maltby man was a man of science. Recent science suggests that trees will communicate through their root systems and they will transfer nutrients to others in need. There is a German scientist that does this and a Canadian one. But more importantly, we need to listen to each other and be more sensitive. I want leaders who are compassionate. I want my leaders to operate with integrity. And I want them to consider the whole history of America so that we can change our future and how we interact with each other.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we're going to move on to Tavell Adams. Has his hand up. Mr. Adams. You're muted, sir. Mr. Adams, are you with us?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you now, Mr. Adams.
Okay. Good afternoon. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. I have you.
Thank you for putting this topic on your agenda once again. I applaud all of you for leading and making a decision today. I know a lot of thought has been put into this. I hope and pray that the Lord's will be done. I encourage that you five make the right decision to bring our community closer, which is to not destroy the statue or keep it where it is, but coming together as a community to discuss a compromise and where it will be relocated. Because the time to do the right thing is all the time. I've heard the false narrative said about me and Darnisha's agenda and intentions. I encourage that each commissioner do as Commissioner Pickens did and give us a call to get to know us better, to get to know our hearts and our thoughts, so that we are able to better serve our community. If you have any questions, I'm here, I'm watching, and I'm listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. We're going to move next to Mr. Mast. I see you have your hand raised.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
All right, thank you. I'm here to share my support in the relocation of the statue. I think the issue has dragged out long enough, and we need to make a decision so that we as a county and our communities can move forward and begin the real work of healing old wounds and learning the meaning of empathy for our neighbors. I realize that this may be a hard choice for some of you, but with all due respect, making hard choices is part of that job. While those choices may not be popular to some in the present, they are right and necessary, and history will reflect that, as it always does. The longer you wait to make a decision only further advances the divisiveness between us. The statue was erected at a point in time that was meant to intimidate people of color. Those people did not have an option to vote on its erection originally, which was clearly a way to exclude input from a large portion of the county's electorate. So putting it on the ballot is a cop-out and a way to shift responsibility. The vile insults and death threats that have been made to Mr. Adams and Ms. Leonard, along with many others like myself, are nothing short of deplorable, and your silence as a collective body has only served as a dog whistle to hateful groups of people and emboldened their behavior to continue. So I implore you to be leaders and make a decision, whatever it may be, so that we can move on as a community. I would like to add that I think that you should look at the proposal that Mr. Gavin Thomas put forth a couple of months ago, because to my knowledge, there's already a third party that has volunteered to cover the cost of the relocation of the statue, so that's no longer an issue. And then in closing, and this is a separate subject, but I'd like to just comment on the whistleblower complaint from the health department that was reported the other day. I'd like to ask if any of you were aware of the department's shortcomings, and given the status of the current pandemic, will any of you be calling for the resignations of Keena Foster or Mary Garcia to restore trust to the department? Thank you.
Josh, well, thank you for your comments today. Next on the list is H. Jones.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Can I address this question on that last subject before we move on, please, since it's completely separate?
Well, it's not on the agenda today, Commissioner Rawls, but you certainly have the authority to do so if you wish.
So, Josh, to answer your question, I am looking into this. What I figured out, number one, they're not county employees, they're state employees. The state did the investigation. Their OIG has made the determination, and it would be up to them to remove somebody. That would not be in our domain whatsoever.
Correct, I understand that.
And to answer the first part of your question, I was not aware of any investigation going on until I got an anonymous email from a Jane Doe that had a copy of the complaint. But we've not been able to discuss this as a body. This is all new information. So, thank you for putting out there in public record. I am looking into it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for Commissioner Rawls. H. Jones.
Hi, my name's Heather Jones, and I live at 1424 County Road 309, Georgetown, Florida. And I just wanted to speak in favor of removing the statue from courthouse grounds and replacing it wherever y'all find fit. Just anything I wanted to touch on has already been spoken of by people who were already in favor of removing it. The fact that there is a Confederate flag on there, it mentions the cause on there. Real? Okay, awesome. Continue, please.
Somebody needs to, yeah, please continue. Somebody needs to mute. I'm not sure it is. Please continue, Ms. Jones.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am, please. That wasn't any of us. That was somebody else on the call that hadn't muted.
Okay, but in the cornerstone speech of the Confederacy, in the Confederate Constitution, in many states' articles of secession, they reference the institution of slavery, and that was one of the causes that they fought for. And for the statue to have symbolism for the Confederacy, reference the causes of the Confederacy, but be on county ground in front of a building that's supposed to represent equality and justice, it's absolutely understandable how this could seem detrimental and oppressive to certain people and offensive to their history. And I understand that I lost my train of thought. You can be proud of your history. You can be proud of your family's history and your ancestors' history. But you also should have compassion and empathy for others. Your compassion for others should be placed over your pride of your history. It's like the right thing to do. The right thing to do isn't always the popular thing to do. What the majority chooses to do isn't always the right thing to do. If you have a look at like 1930s Germany, the popular thing was not the right thing to do. So that should not always be what you take into consideration. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. Is everything has already been said, but the right choice it's a tough choice.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones, for your comments today. Next, we're going to move to Allegra Kitchens. Allegra, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I do now. Yes.
All right, great. Thank you. Yes, Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. The issue before you today appears to be that if you don't move the statue, there will be riots and rallies in Palatka, which could turn really, really bad. I believe that Carl Flag means very well. I believe Common Ground does too. However, if the members of Common Ground, the Chamber of Commerce, the Putnam Bar Association, or anybody else is naive enough to believe moving the Confederate statue from the courthouse lawn will stop the protests and rallies in Palatka, they are living in a dream world and need to wake up. Here in Darnisha Leonard's own words, posted on her Facebook page on July the 4th, 2020, is your dose of reality. Y'all think we only want the statue? Nah, we coming for all the injustices that happened in Putnam County. We not done yet. This only the beginning. I promise y'all, I'm going to use the platform I've been given to make change for my county. All over this country, when people have given in and removed the Confederate statues, that was the beginning of demands that got more and more ridiculous. Ms. Leonard pretends to want peace and equality, but her Facebook posts from 2019 show her real feelings. She sent an email to a post to Bell Adams saying, white people are the scum of the earth. You can't tell them otherwise. Don't argue with ignorance. God is most definitely going to handle them. And sent to Ms. Owens, white people are mutants that shouldn't even exist. Maybe scum was too harsh, but your people were slave owners, and there will be divine just for that. And I serve the true black God. Now, to be fair, after these posts went viral on Facebook, Ms. Leonard did apologize. She said that was last year, and that now she is a brand new person, that she was angry at the time. A very wise person used to tell me that when you're mad enough, then the truth comes out. Neither Miss Leonard nor Mr. Adams would pledge allegiance to the United States of America during the last commission meeting. That shows their disregard, if not outright hatred, of the United States and its citizens, including Putnam County. I'm only pointing this out because you need to pay attention to all the people of Putnam County and not to one particular person who apparently hates all white people. I'm asking the Putnam County Commission to have the courage today to vote to keep the statue in the courthouse grounds where it stood for 96 years. However, I am not against if you put it to a vote of the people. That is the democratic way. That is the American way, which these kids are 100% against. And the lady that just spoke is right. The right way is not always the popular way. However, referencing Hitler, please remember, Hitler also told people what he intended to do, and Europe let him take over several countries in an attempt to appease him before they woke up and stopped him. Miss Leonard has told you her intent. Are you going to give in to appease her, hoping that, like Hitler, she didn't mean what she said, that she's going after all of Putnam County? Or are you going to do the right thing and either leave the statue alone or put it on the ballot? At this point, I think putting it on the ballot in November for a vote of all the people of Putnam County is the right thing to do. Now, Carl Flagg is a decent man, and if he had asked for it to be moved, he would have done it in a way that would have been nice, and you wouldn't have expected any further trouble. But I'm telling you here and now, you move that, it's not going to do a darn thing. You're still going to have rallies, and I will go to the bank on my word on that. So please do the right thing. My thanks to Mr. Pickens and Mr. Flagg and that group. I think they mean well, but they are naive and they're not living in the 21st century of the United States. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Ms. Kitchens, for your comments. Next on the line, we've got a phone number, which is 904-415-8157. It's got their hand raised. 415-8157.
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can now. You're going to have to give us your name and address for the record because.
Sure. Not a problem. Melissa McAdams, defend Putnam, St. Johns County, Florida. I was there a couple of weeks ago. We defend Putnam and defend St. Augustine, but on a route for the people to come speak. We accept anyone in our group. We don't care what race you are. We don't care your creed. But if you have our heart, you are family and you are welcome. We were not violent. We spoke. We had guest speakers. It was very peaceful. We were well within our rights, which is to petition. You know, this country has seen a lot of wars over its history. Wars on this soil, wars on foreign soil. And all of the wars shaped us as a country. Could you imagine what our country would be like if the Civil War never happened? And like the history, not like the history, agree with the premises on which the war was fought on, it shaped us. It's history. And removing it from the people is wrong. And if someone chooses to be offended by a monument and it impedes on their ability to seek justice, well, then they seriously need to consider how thin their skin is. Because I've never let a monument or a statue or a plaque impede me from seeking justice. I say that the commissioners need to put this to a vote to the people. And I feel like anyone that's against that is against the people. These are your taxpayers. These are the citizens. These are the voters. They voted those commission members in to represent them, the people. And you really seriously have to ask yourself the question, why would they not want the people to have a voice in this? Because nothing that anyone has said up to now has been a good reason for the people to be silenced. We are a free country, and we are supposed to be governed by the people. So why wouldn't you allow the people to speak on it, to vote on it, put it on the ballot? And if you think that this stops with this monument, it doesn't. They'll target something else. And when I say they, I mean BLM, because that's what's got this all amped up all over the country. And yeah, there's a checklist. And if you pay attention and you listen to members of that group, they'll tell you what they're about, just like the lady before me read a statement by one of the members of that group. You need to wake up. It doesn't end at this monument. What else will they choose to be offended by and demand that you change? Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments today. Next, we have Mallory's iPhone. Are you with us? Mallory's iPhone. Are you with us on Mallory's iPhone? Okay, we're going to move to the next one. Okay. Okay, Mallory's iPhone. You need to give us your name and address for the record,
Yes.
please.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Mallory Kruger, 1604 Green Street, Palatka, Florida, and I'm a 30-year-old lifelong resident of Putnam County. I was raised in Barton, educated in the Putnam County school system, and am now raising my 2 children here. My parents and grandparents all grew up here as well. I understand both small town and Southern pride and the implications that come with both. I'm here today to say that the only right choice in regards to the issue of the Confederate statue is relocation. Many people in favor of leaving the monument will argue that it has no racist undertones and only stands to remember soldiers lost in battle, but this argument is misleading at best. If you truly know your history, you'll understand that when this statue was erected by the Daughters of the Confederacy, it was approximately 60 years after the end of the war and during the tumultuous Jim Crow era. Monuments like this were erected all over the country during this time as a means to remind Black folks of their place in society, that even though they were beginning to be granted quote unquote equal protection under the law, that these people would never allow them to be seen as truly equal. Every person who demands that the statue remains where it is, share and support that same ideology, whether they realize it and whether they intend to or not. It's absurd not to meet in the middle on this issue. Though some would have you believe that we who want the statue moved don't want to compromise, moving it to another location is exactly that. No one is asking that the statue be harmed or destroyed, simply that it be moved to a location where its relevance can be appreciated, to be placed with the rest of those who have passed and are remembered instead of haunting the living in its current location. The argument of erasing history is also completely asinine. I'm quite comfortable assuming that not one single person in this county learned about the Confederacy because of this statue. Statues don't teach history, period. We erect monuments to people who should be honored and revered, not men who were traitors to this country. If you have pride in your American flag, then it is indeed treacherous to also fly the Confederate flag, the most used of which is not even the official flag of the Confederacy. To say that celebrating the Confederacy isn't inherently racist is a complete fallacy. The war may have included the issue of states' rights and tariffs, but the very foundation of it, based on both the cornerstone speech by the Vice President of the Confederacy and their proposed Constitution, makes it very clear that the bulk of the matter was over their ability to, or lack thereof, to continue owning slaves. Stop and think about that for just a moment. These men were fighting to maintain their right to own human beings. They literally saw Black people as inhuman property to be bought and sold like livestock. These are not the ancestors who should be held up and honored. It's time to start listening to those in our community who are negatively affected by relics from an openly racist and harmful time in our country's past. If the rallying cry was for the statue to be destroyed, then I could understand the outrage from those who want it to remain. How, though, does a simple relocation to another area within the city bring about so much ire? How does moving this hunk of stone to a location a few miles away negatively affect anyone? This is a question that I cannot find an answer to. The only thing that happens with relocation is that those in favor of it staying put don't get their way, while leaving it where it is will continue to dig a deeper wound into the heart of our already marginalized minority community. If you truly believe that all lives matter, that means that you also acknowledge Black lives and their needs. Black people have never gotten a fair shake in this country, as much as many people would like to disagree, and it's time for that to change. If you love everyone and think everyone should be treated equally, it's time to start acting like it. Considering only the ideas and feelings of people who agree with and look like you will get us nowhere. It also needs to be said again that putting this to a vote by the people will further disenfranchise a clearly already underrepresented group. In regards to Commissioner Turner's thinly veiled comments about ponying up funds to relocate the statue, I will say two things. First, if that's what it takes, I'm absolutely on board and you consider my check is in the mail. However, I believe that it should actually be left up to those who are responsible for the maintenance of the monument to pay for the relocation, as it never should have been placed in such a place of honor in front of the courthouse to begin with. Thank you for your time, and I sincerely hope that you will all consider the implications of your decisions before making them. The last thing I'll submit is the question of what do you think your God would require of you? Would he want you to make the choice that causes further division in our community, or one that allows healing and unity to begin? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments today. Next on it is, all I have on my screen is iPhone owner.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm going to need your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Elena Parham. I prefer not to share my address, but I do live in St. Johns County.
Ma'am, I'm going to need your address for the record, please.
Oh, I'm a minor and my parents don't want me sharing it.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Hang on a second. Let me get a ruling here. Sarah, do I need an address for the record, or can it just St. Johns County be okay? Okay, Rich, are you on the call with us, Mr. Attorney Commando?
Yes, sir, I am. And you can just take the city and state for a minor. It's really just so the commission understands whether or not the speaker is a constituent or not.
Okay, thank you, Rich. So please proceed.
All right, perfect. First off, I'd like to say that regardless of what people say when they call in or email, you can call in from anywhere, you can email from anywhere, but the only real way to understand what the people want is by doing a vote. And if you look at, the other cities that have been, they've been arguing whether or not a statue, memorial, or monument need to be moved. If you look at the polls that were done, most of the majority of the people wanted to keep it. And, you look at St. Augustine, 87% of those people in St. Augustine and St. Johns County, they wanted to keep the memorial to dead soldiers. And the city went completely against the wishes of the people. And this government is public servants for the people. That's what they're elected to do. So for the government to go against the will of the people is not what they're elected to do. And also, I'd like to say, did the Chamber of Commerce mention that they do not represent the majority of the businesses? Because a group that I associate with, we've had businesses come to us and they've said, thank you for helping us speak out, because the Chamber of Commerce never asked us. They never asked for our opinion. They never properly polled the businesses. The Chamber of Commerce went off their own agenda. And regardless of what people say, there is an agenda behind this. Make what you want with that agenda and what you think it is, but there is an agenda. And another thing that I would like to say in regards to the woman who spoke earlier, I think her name is Mallory, she used a complete straw man argument. To say that one group of people who support the preservation of American history, to say that all of them are racist, that's stereotyping. I thought the whole point of Black Lives Matter is to get rid of stereotypes against Black people. So you're going to get rid of stereotypes by making a new one? It just doesn't make sense. And, you know, with that argument, how she said the vice president of the Confederacy, do you think that people who were in the South, who had their city attacked from the St. Johns River, who were being shot at by the Union Army, who were just trying to defend their homes and their families, that shows nothing, like there's no evidence of them personally being racist. Do you think that they would march from Florida all the way up to Virginia to fight for the top, 3% of slave owners and people who supported slavery in the Confederacy? I don't think they would. I think they would because they were being attacked. I know they would because they were being attacked by the Union. They were defending their homes the same way the soldiers, the Minorcan, who were also minorities, the same way those soldiers in St. Augustine were defending their homes and their families. And so I'm just asking you guys to please put this up for a vote from the people, because regardless what is the right or wrong thing to do, the actual thing that the government is supposed to do by law is let the people decide. That is the true right thing to do. You can't expect people who come here on this meeting to speak out. You know, you can call in or email from anywhere, like I said, and like a gentleman before me said. The vote has to come from the people for it to be accurate on what the people want. So please, I'm asking you guys to please put this up for a vote by the people in November. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Parham, for your comments. Next, I have a hand raised that just says iPhone on the deal. Is the person that just has iPhone listed, are they with us? Okay. Would you give us your name and address for the record? Well, they're not muted, but I'm not hearing anything. Okay, I guess we lost them. Well, I understand, but if I can't get them to speak, then it won't do any good, Jacob. Is the person listed as iPhone still with us? Okay, if they come back on, then we'll give it a whirl. And I have someone listed as Galaxy Note 8 that's been raising their hand manually. Can you unmute for us? Oh, I see you have your hand raised too.
I think you're talking to me, Commissioner Turner.
Yes, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know. I thought it was you, Travis. Please proceed.
Yeah, you knew you wouldn't get rid of me today.
No, sir, not trying to, my friend.
First, I want to congratulate you guys on your elections and that. Now, move on from there. You know, since when does the Chamber of Commerce get involved with any political stuff? You know, these guys represent different businesses, and that could put those businesses in jeopardy with having people boycott them. They should not have a say-so in it. They are tax-funded, tax-paid organization over there. And same with the bar. They have no political agenda here. So it seems they do, but they really don't. Their stuff means absolutely nothing. And you know, I love you guys and I respect you, but the county commissioners, this is not up to you guys. This is a copy of the Constitution. It's we the people that should decide, not the politicians, not a handful of people that are common ground. I have nothing against them. I would vote for Carl Flagg in a heartbeat. I don't have anything against him. Recently, I had a gun pulled on me over in Lake Stella because I was what they said, quote unquote, white, and to get my white ASS out of there, all because I was there to help a black gentleman get a new roof for his house. I was ran off. So yes, the racism is spreading over into the white sector, the Hispanic, everything. By moving that statue, just like in Jacksonville where they put it in a cemetery, it did not matter. What mattered was the people went over there after they had moved the statue and started bashing in headstones. That had nothing to do with the Civil War. They were our veterans who fought and died for our country. You know, gentlemen, this is up to the citizens of Putnam County, not up to you guys, not up to a handful of the Chamber of Commerce or the Florida Bar. We have the Constitution for a reason, and our right to vote should stand. I would like to ask the county commission that they put this up for vote. It's not up to 5 individuals. There's 74,000 residents. Now, I know there was a comment made in one of the meetings where, well, there's not enough people that can get out and vote. You know what? To me, that's hogwash, because if people can go to Walmart and Dollar General and any place, they can get out and vote. That is our rights, our God-given rights as citizens of this United States of America. And as a Putnam County, I chose to live here. I was not born here. I want to see this place expand. And I'm going to let some of the people of Black Lives Matters know.
Travis, you're muted again. I don't know what happened. Travis, you're muted again. I don't know what happened.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you now. Thank you.
I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you, sir.
Okay, please continue, sir.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a racist, but I'll tell you where racism comes. It's not from a statue. Over on my newspaper, my radio station, we do fundraisers for all kinds of kids and stuff. I was adopted an orphan. I'll tell you where racism comes in. These people that are going after statues and after trees need to get this through their heads. I've been to tons and tons of daycare centers. You put those kids in a room together, they hug, they kiss, they play together, they have a good time. Racism comes from within the home. What you teach your children is what they're going to take on next. That's the only way racism's going to end, not with a statue. And if you move it to a cemetery, guarantee it's kicking the can down the road. This needs to be a vote for the citizens of Putnam County. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you, Travis. I don't see any more hands raised in the discussion. So without it, yes.
Hello? Hello? Hello, I'm here.
Okay. Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, name and address. Hello?
Hello?
I can't. Okay, is it over?
Good time. Racism comes from within the home. What you teach your children is what they're going to take on next.
What you need to do, ma'am, is you need to mute your live feed that's feeding back on your phone.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you, Travis. I don't see any more hands raised okay. We're going to, somebody is not muted because we're getting feedback on the phone.
Get a mute. No, okay. I'm muting one. Ow.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Would you give us your name and address for the record, please? And please mute your phone, your live feed.
We did. She got mine.
Okay. Thank you. Would you give us your name and address for the record? No, ma'am, it's not mine. Do you have your name and address for the record, please?
Judy Lucia at 111 Red Dodge Drive.
Okay, please proceed. Hello, we're not hearing you. It's the phone number 9338 that ends in 9338. Is that who's trying to speak at the moment? Okay, at this point, I've got another one on the line that says Moto G5 Plus. Are you with us today? Moto G5 Plus. Do we have a Moto G5 Plus with us? Okay, we'll move to the next one.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. 833, is this 8338 9338?
No, this is the Moto G5 Plus.
Okay, would you please give us your name and address for the record, please?
Chalinette Martinez from 200 College Road, Palaca, Florida.
Okay, please proceed.
I wanted to comment on the statue on the courthouse. The courthouse has different memorials representing justice. Besides the Veterans Memorial, they have a memorial for survivors of sexual assault. So I don't see how the Confederate statue represents justice. I want it to be relocated from a public ground that represents justice. And I also have an agenda that I would like to be placed on the next BOCC meeting regarding when the Putnam County libraries will reopen, because there's homeless people in Palaca who are hungry for jobs, and they don't have the resources such as computers to apply for these jobs. That most of these job applications are online, and with the libraries being closed to the public, they can't, go back on their feet if they can't access these computers. And there's no way to know their voices if they don't have access to Zoom meetings or phones or emails. They don't have money for that. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I believe the libraries are open by appointment. Julianne, can't they walk up, knock on the door and get in? That was my understanding the last time I heard.
I'm checking on that information, Commissioner, so that I can verify it with you.
Oh, please do, because last I heard they could walk up, knock on a door and get in by appointment, use a computer. There was only one computer to be used at the time, and it was supposed to be sanitized as soon as they were done. And so if that has changed, I'm unaware of it at this point. So anyhow, thank you for your comments. Next, I have Tommy Rogers. Mr. Rogers,
thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I have you. Please.
Thank you so much. Tommy Rogers, 800 Madison Street. I pastor Bethlehem Baptist Church, a majority African-American congregation here in Putnam County. I am a transplant from Jacksonville, but I am a resident of the county. I'm conflicted over the comments that we're receiving today. I think when everybody has to take personalities out of the issue and look at the issue. We're currently living in an age where there's still disparities, economic, health, wellness, housing, disparities within the African-American community, which is the vestiges of slavery and slave mentality. These things were done with a purpose to the African-American community. There are no slaveholders now, no slave owners now, but we still have the effects and the residuals of slavery in our lives every day. They're good people of goodwill in our community that believe the statue needs to stay and believe the statue needs to go. The issue is not always what is everybody's agreement. You have to look at the aggrieved when it comes to these issues than those that are not affected by the issue. If we're going to be a society that cares and has empathy, sometimes we have to bear the burdens of others, and something that's not going to hurt us as moving the statue, but have empathy for those that are hurt, and stop calling names and doing these things. And I have to say this, for an adult to talk about a young person, a teenager's Facebook post, to say that this is the reason why we should not do this and move this statue, I think it's a little far for the course for us to do that. Young people exercise their out of their youth, but we who are adults and have a little gray, whether we're hiding it or not, need to look at these issues and say, hey, is somebody hurt? And I think it's just the right thing to do. If there are issues that are hurting individuals, and I've heard a lot of things about what folk feel about this thing, and just disregarding the effects. I'm kind of affected right now, even talking about these issues. But I would hope someone would see that it hurts. The courthouse is not the place to stand up for the Confederacy. But we all stand up for everyone collectively. I'm a Southerner. I am a Southerner. But I don't stand for the Confederacy because of what the Confederacy stood for and fought for. And I understand that there were people that fought that did not agree with racism or with slavery. But the institution of the Confederacy was an institution that had the purpose, one of the purposes, of promoting and keeping slavery. And we don't need to perpetuate that in 2020 and going forward. We've all been affected by this disease. We've all had issues. I'm a survivor of COVID-19. I know people that I've loved, that raised me, that have died of COVID-19. I think it's time that we try to come together. And if we have to move the statue so that we could come together, I think it's the right thing to do. We can come together and say, this is what needs to do. As far as the commissioners go, gentlemen, I understand you have a difficult position. But you are our representative, and we're in a democracy, but this is a representative democracy. And we have you there to stand for us. And I want you to know something. You're going to reach out to more people than you probably already have if you stand up and make this decision, because it's the right thing to do. We know that if it goes to a vote, it's going to be voted down. I mean, let's just say it. There are too many people that aren't affected by it, so they're going to vote against moving the statue. And I think it is it is an issue that we need to just go ahead and take the hard choice, do what needs to be done now, and take care of all of the people of Putnam County, because it's not going to hurt anyone to move it, but it hurts some of us to have it there. And I just hope you take this as heartfelt. And I really, again, empathize for you, commissioners, for being in this position. But we put our trust in you, and I trust you to do the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I appreciate it. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. So let's try to hold it to 5 minutes, and then we'll continue with public comment. in the meeting again, and the next person I'm going to call is Mary Reese. Mary, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Try again, Mary. I can't quite hear you. I see you're unmuted.
Okay. Can you hear me
That's
now?
because I don't have my damn earphones in. Give me a second. Sorry about that, Mary. Please proceed. Please proceed.
I wanted to thank all the commissioners for all the time that they've taken to examine all aspects of this request to remove both the oak trees and the Confederate statue. I know that many, many hours have been spent individually and collectively through in-person meetings, emails, phone calls, and workshops. And I, for one, appreciate the time that you have spent with that. Through this process, I'm sure that you have no doubt that the majority of the people of Putnam County support keeping the Civil War veteran statue exactly as it has stood for nearly 100 years. This was my position in the beginning as well. However, I wanted to be fair and try to see the issue through other people's eyes. After doing so and researching all of the different arguments for removing or relocating the statue, I have found that the arguments did not hold up to scrutiny. And so I am back to my original belief that the monument should remain in place. Some have spoken to the narrative that the statue was placed during an era of Jim Crow laws designed to keep a race down. This does not apply, in my belief, to our statue in Putnam County. Although it was placed and erected in 1924, it was designed and thought of years and years before. It just took that long to raise the money to erect the monument. William Ivers donated a great sum of money towards it. He died in 1909. It was the same year the courthouse was completed. His will stipulated several things, one of which was money to be left to the local UDC chapter. But although he died in 1909, they did not receive money. His estate was not settled until 1923. It had nothing to do with politics. It had nothing to do with that part of the time. Reading UDC minutes and newspaper articles, it bears all of this out. After the war, many Putnam County residents struggled financially. Veterans were buried without headstones, and the UDC provided for them, and with the help of the Federal Veterans Administration, erected nearly 100 headstones. The cenotaph that stands in front of our courthouse honors those that served. No matter what your thoughts are concerning the war, it is evident that these men were considered veterans by the federal government. They received pensions, their wives received pensions, and they deserve as much respect as any other war veteran. The Vietnam War was a war in my lifetime that was very controversial. It divided our country, but yet now we have come together, united, and we honor those veterans of the Vietnam War. I don't see any difference between them and our Civil War veterans. Some have stated that the statue supports the tenets of slavery. Nothing can be further from the truth in regards to Putnam County. An estimated 1% of Putnam County population owned slaves. William Ivers was not one of them. Some have insinuated that our town would be vandalized if the statue is moved. These are bully tactics. I have faith in our commissioners, in our sheriff's department, and in our citizens that this will not be the case. Just this month, on August 6th, the Jefferson County, Florida Board of County Commissioners voted to keep their statue in Monticello. The town is still standing, nothing has erupted in flames, and the statue remains as it has for years. I ask that you stop and think before making a decision. I understand and I empathize with those who may be offended, but those are individual hearts. And I really believe that we as a people can come together, that we can discuss openly and try to understand and empathize with each other. But I don't see moving the statue solving any of those issues. I thank you for my time, and I thank you for all the time that you've put into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next on the list, do I have on my monitor as Brandon? If you would give us your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Turner. My name is Brandon Lyons, 7845 Paradise Island Boulevard, Jacksonville, Florida. But before that, I was a lifelong resident of Putnam County. The idea that this is I should also preface this by saying that these are my views as a private citizen and in no way are affiliated with my employment. The idea that this is a new conversation is patently false. Even going back as recently as 2017, there are news articles written where Mayor Hill of Palatka, Florida was meeting with people to discuss what should happen with the statue. To give a little bit more context to this, in 1869, a year before his death, Robert E. Lee says that no statues should be erected. He said, and this is a quote, "We should follow the example of those nations who endeavored to obliterate the marks of civil strife, to commit to oblivion the feelings engendered therein." To give more context, the Constitution of the Confederate States was ratified on March 11th, 1861. In their Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, subsection 4 says no bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law denying or impairing the right of property in slaves shall be passed. Subsection 12 is where they get into the freedom of speech. So they placed the idea of maintaining their right to own people as property above the right to speak freely. This monument should not be in front of a place of justice that up until less than 70 years ago, people of color wouldn't have even been allowed to go inside of. To say that it is not harmful to the community is false, because you can see how harmful it is to the community, because people have been speaking out about this for years and years. And that's not going to stop. It should not be where it is located, and it should be relocated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon. Next on the list is Pleasant Grove AME Church. I need you to give us your name and address for the record. Yes, sir, I'm having trouble hearing you. I see you're unmuted, but try again.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm Ty Field, Senior Pastor of Pleasant Grove AME Church in Georgetown, Florida, 131 Georgetown Shortcut Road. I'm original resident of St. Johns County, Florida, 974 Lee Street, St. Augustine, Florida, 32084. First of all, I want to thank the commissioners for even having this meeting. I want to thank the leadership of Putnam County. I think that as leaders and as Putnam County as a whole, we want to move forward in the best way possible, in a positive manner. And thinking that us bashing one another, that's not going to get us to where we're trying to get to. We got to, and that all that comes out of us just loving on one another in spite of all of our indifferences. When you talk about leadership, we vote leadership in place that's going to make hard, tough decisions that will impact our communities in the best way possible. We vote for leadership that will put emotions and feelings to the side to make uncomfortable decisions that way.
Oh, I think we might have just lost him. Is he still on there, Jacob, that you can find? It looks like we may have lost him. Okay, would you keep an eye out for him to call back in, please, sir, and we'll let him continue. Okay. Yeah, they're down in District 1. I can't imagine that they're having a connection issue down there. That's where all the equipment is. Yes, sir. We're having some problems with your connection. I think you're muted. Did we lose them? Okay. Well, we'll continue on. If he calls back in, Jacob, if you'd let me know. That's all the people I have at this point that have raised their hand to speak in the meeting. Miss Ellington, I see you waving your hand. Would you like to speak? If you'll unmute yourself, that would be just fine.
Yeah. I am trying to speak.
Okay.
There's also several more.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll ask him in a minute. Right now, Miss Ellington has the floor, and then I'll go to the 6106 number. Miss Ellington, please proceed.
Yes, my name is Margaret Ellington, and I live at 310 East Palmer Street, Palatka, Florida. I've listened to a lot of speakers this morning, and I'm very proud of some. I'm sitting here having heart palpitations because of some of the negative comments and whatever. I don't have that much to say. All I wanted to say is that I am in favor of removing this statue from the courthouse lawns. I don't see any possible reason for it to continue to be there. And I thank you all for taking this time to listen to us. And I hope you can come to the right decision on the removal of the Confederate statue. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Ellington. I'm going to move to the last four digits of the phone number being 6106. And please give us your name and address for the record.
That's Donna Crow, 117 Bowl Green Drive, Interlochen, Florida.
Please proceed.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to speak. I appreciate that. It's been a very interesting afternoon listening to everyone, and I've learned a lot. I'm new here just a little over a year ago. I am retired. I moved here for a reason, because I wanted to retire in a peaceful, small, loving community. That's what I saw when I drove through Palatka, because Palatka was bigger than Interlochen, but I knew I'd be spending a lot of my time there. So it was important to me. One of the things that struck me as a newcomer just driving through was the beautiful courthouse. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina originally, and we have a lot of history there, and I'm a history lover. So I saw the courthouse, I went, wow, there's some history there. I've got to come down here and check this out when I get moved and settled. So that was one of the reasons that I decided to move here. I saw the statues on the courthouse grounds. They did not offend me or bother me. I said, I'll check them out later. And I would learn the history of the county. I'm thankful to Mary Reese. I've been waiting to hear someone to mention Mr. Ivers, and I'm thankful that she did. His will was not settled until 1924, as she said. I wonder why nobody mentioned that Mr. Ivers owned part of the property of the courthouse that the courthouse stands on now. I just learned that recently. A lady from Palatka, Miss Christy Thomas, wrote a really, really nice, informative essay on Mr. Ivers, and I learned he was not a slave owner. He was a property owner, and he owned a lot of property. Volunteered his time in the war, came home. Sadly died many years later. But as he died, the county of Palatka owed him money, about $5,000 for the property that the courthouse sits on. And I think the DAR got involved with it, and then henceforth started with some statute proceedings for him in his honor for that reason and for his service, which is important to the DRA at that time. I think that the statue, as you said, needs to stay on the courthouse property, and we need to educate people in order not to repeat history. Let's move the statue a little bit. Let's put up some more statues of some other people of Black heritage that have meant something to this county, that the young people who started the to get it moved. Let them take charge and raise the money for these statues. I'll be happy to donate. But let's educate the people. Let's keep the statue on the courthouse with all the others. And if you don't want to do that, then let the people vote for it, because that is their right. And that's about all I have to say. And thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you for your comments today. Next, we're going to go to, I think it was 9468.
Okay.
Are you with us? Phone number 9468. Okay. Who else would like to speak in this meeting before I stop public comment?
I would like to, please.
I
would. Jesse Spivey.
Okay. Just a second, Miss. All right. We've got, I'm going to start with Miss Thaler. I have a Miss Thaler. Miss Thaler, you want to go ahead, ma'am?
Yes. I can't find a little hand raise thing here, so that's why I'm physically raising my hand.
That's fine,
I want to
ma'am.
say that I agree with the pastor that spoke a little earlier. And it seems to me that Putnam County is like a small community with, it's like an extended family. Everyone knows each other. And if you know that what you're doing is hurtful or causes harm, why would you want to continue to do that thing? Is my question. So it is my understanding there has been a good faith effort to move the statue elsewhere and not to destroy it. I'm asking you to be good neighbors and remove the statue from its present place. And I'm calling for civility and neighborly love. And that is a request to move the statue. And I believe, go along with the gentleman that spoke before, if you know something is causing harm, if it's a family member or your neighbor or someone that you love, then why would you want to continue to do that? Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Miss Thaler.
Thank you.
Next would be telephone number 6877. Somebody needs to mute.
That's me.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Would you give me your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's Angie Wright.
Yes, Miss Wright.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Miss Wright. Hang on just a second. Do you have your feed?
No problem.
Do you have your feed running also? Did you figure?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. Would you please proceed?
Absolutely, sweetheart. It's Angie Wright, 114 Yancey Circle, Satsuma, Florida. And I just wanted to say that I've been listening to everybody for the last couple hours here, and all I'm hearing basically has been the voices from people outside of our community telling us how to run our community, the people from St. Augustine trying to influence our decisions. My husband was a Vietnam veteran, and we have all of our, the Vietnam War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War. Not everybody agreed with them, but we still have the statues, and we refuse to move those statues. Just like a funeral is not for the living, the dead, it's for the living. Those statues are not meant just for the dead. Those are actually meant to show our history, to teach the future generations what happened here so that we can make ourselves better in the future. You can't hide it no matter what you do. Anybody who takes the history away, we're doomed to repeat it. It's been there, how many years? When you guys are trying to take away our right to vote on that, you're basically saying my flag offends you, because those veterans died, and my flag and my constitutional right to vote on those things, that's my privilege. That's my right. And you guys are taking that away. That's offending me. I should have a voice in this, not just on a phone. I should be able to go to my ballot box and make a personal decision. And if those people want to vote on it, then they still have time to register to vote. It's not fair to me for you to do it. So I guess I'll leave it at that, but we honor our soldiers. The monuments are there for future generations to learn from the past so we don't repeat it. So, but I'll end it there. But I believe it should stay. I don't believe we should move our statue to make somebody else happy, because if we keep moving things, then what are we doing? We're hiding, and you can't hide the past. You guys have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Next on the list, I think Craig Sherrar wants to speak. Craig, are you with us?
There we go. Thank you very much. I spoke before. I'm going to try not to repeat myself, and I'd like to address a couple quick points before I get into my prepared remarks. One of the speakers spoke about the condition of Black lives in Putnam County right now harkens back to slavery. As a real estate investor, I can guarantee you this. I can take anybody around anywhere in the county and I can show just as deplorable living conditions that white people are living in as Black folks are living in. Those white people are not living in those crappy, dumpy, falling down mobile homes because they were held to bondage. It's because other conditions, and I wish somebody would find out what that is so we could fix it as easily as we could fix moving the statute. I would also like to point out about popular wars and unpopular wars. There was an individual by the name of Muhammad Ali who was threatened and convicted for failing to report to the draft because he did not want to go to Vietnam to kill yellow people. Things happen, things are unpopular, things change. But remember, we are talking about people of color, and one man of color did not want to go to Vietnam to kill other people of color. My opposition to moving the statute is because it is totally based on hypocrisy. The hypocrisy that if the Confederacy was so bad and it can never, ever be reformed, how can all these people be Democrats? Ku Klux Klan, founded by a Democrat. Byrd, senator till 2010, Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. Every sheriff who allowed a Black man to be taken out of his jail and lynched was a Democrat. Everybody in the government of the Confederacy, Democrat. And it wasn't just the Democrats of the South that wanted to perpetuate slavery. Watch the movie Lincoln. The Democrats of the North did not want to give the Blacks equal rights. If you can be a Democrat and support the party of slavery, then you should support the statute or stop the hypocrisy. And I think we should reform Old Joe. And the way he should be reformed is by putting a new plaque on him that says, Old Joe is rededicated to stand for the proposition that this country is not what it was 160 years ago, but it is what we are today. That we are humans, and that while we make mistakes, we are, as a nation, what we are today, not what we were 160 years ago. The nation that we are today is a nation where descendants of African Americans who were held in bondage now hold not only the highest elected office in this country, but are mayors, governors, congressmen, senators of every single state that held slaves 160 years ago. If we are going to be honest with ourselves, then we need to be honest with ourselves. And we need to stop this notion that somehow something that happened 160 years ago has infected this country. I would remind you all that in the 70s, when the Nazis wanted to demonstrate in Skokie, Illinois, that Jewish lawyers from the ACLU defended their right of free speech. I served my time in the military, and I'm proud of the time I served in the military. I am an attorney. It is my job as an attorney to protect and defend people. I am proud of the fact that while I hate the notion that certain people decide to kneel during our national anthem, I will defend their right to do that because that is their constitutional right. But I will not defend the right of those people that are making millions of dollars and that people that are eating up time and time and time and energy complain about a statue, but how much time do they spend to actually end the systemic racism? How much time has all these people spent going to a black church on a Sunday and holding a reading class to improve the literacy of black children so that they will not take a bad path, but will be a good path?
Craig, at the risk of trying to get a lawyer to cut it short, would you do my best here to kind of get there?
Yes, sir. I was just, and I appreciate the time and the leniency you've given me. But I will just sum it up as that. This is exactly what it is. I have never stopped representing poor people for free, be they white or they black, at the courthouse when I go in there and I see injustice. That statute doesn't stop me from doing anything. I'd like to know how many lawyers that are complaining about it have gone in there and done that. And so based upon that, I think we should take a stand, which is not a popular stand, but is the right stand, which is rededicate the statute to the notion that America is what it is today, and we should be proud of what we are today. And if it wasn't something to be proud of what we are today, why is it that millions of people, not just from South America, but for Africa, would do anything to get into this country? And based upon that, Mr. Anderson, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Craig, for being with us today and your comments. It looks like we have Pleasant Grove AME Church back on the call. We're going to try to hear the comments from them another time. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir. We have you at the moment. Please, please continue.
Okay. But so what I was saying is that we, you know, we vote for leadership. I hear people saying about the, you know, that, you know, the leadership shouldn't have a say, so they shouldn't make the decision. And I'm saying we vote for leadership that's going to make hard and tough decisions that will impact our communities in the best way possible. We vote for you guys. We put you guys in that position for you to make decisions that are not based on emotions and feelings. And so I'm listening to the call, and I'm listening to the different people speak. And I heard one young lady say that outsiders from St. Augustine, and I heard one young man say that it needs to be on the ballot for some of all about 75,000 people to place a vote. First of all, I am a veteran just like her husband, so I thank him for that. But at the same time, my question to you, to the leadership is they want it on the ballot saying for these people to vote on it about taking it down. My question is, was it on the ballot for people to vote about putting it up? Also, there was a comment about, if we move it, that the taxpayers, that taxpayers shouldn't be responsible for it, and that we should raise private funds. And I'm for that to an extent, but my question again is did taxpayer money put it up? Because if taxpayer money put it up, then they should be responsible for taking it down. Like I said, I've heard all the comments. I don't think there's a room for anybody to be going after anybody. I think everybody has their opinion, but at the same time, we're not like St. Johns County. We're not like these other counties. We're Putnam County. We're one city, one county under God, and so we should act that way. We should love one another unconditionally, no matter how they feel. But at the same time, I think right is right and wrong is wrong. And that's why you guys are in the position you are in as leaders of Putnam County to make these decisions that other folk don't want to make. So no, it's not. It shouldn't be left up to the citizens. It's up to you guys, the leadership that we put in place to lead us in a positive way.
Okay, thank you for your comments today, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak in public comment before we close public comment section?
Me, Jesse Spivey.
Okay, Miss Spivey, please go ahead.
What I would like
also
to say
David Price.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Spivey.
My name is Jessie Spivey. I'm at 3017 Twig Street, Palatka, Florida. As far back, my grandparents are still living, 100 years old, live here in this county. We are for the monument to stay. Most of all, I would like to see it put on the ballot. Reason being is, yes, we elected you officials. However, I don't think that we should put all this on y'all's shoulders, that it should be the majority rule. Taxpayers pay their taxes, and taxpayers should make the decision. I don't need to school anybody on the history of the Confederate monument, because if we want to go back through the same thing everybody else has always talked about, then we know the Confederate War was people who died for what they believed in. They're still veterans, and they died for what they believed they were fighting for. So the monument should stay. Like I said, I believe it should be put on the ballot for the county. Taxpayers' money, taxpayers' choice. Past lives matter. Past lives matter. It's not about what is black or white. It is what is right or wrong. And I think that the citizens should decide and let the majority rule, and then let it fall where it may. If the majority rules for the monument to be removed and placed somewhere else, so be it. But it should be put in the taxpayers' responsibility, not y'all. On our responsibility, let us vote on it. That's what I'm asking. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Spivey. I appreciate
Put it on the ballot.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate those comments. Mr. Price, did you have something to say? Please proceed. Mr. Price.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay. What I wanted to share this afternoon. Okay. I'm new to this thing here, so I'm not really sure what's going on. My video has stopped for something. Let me bear with me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. I hear you, Mr. Price. Well, we have
what I wanted to say. The young gentleman with the headphones on had mentioned meeting that Mayor Hill had attended that meeting on there at Price Martin Center.
Sir, excuse me for interrupting. I need your name and address for the record if you're not Mr. Price.
I'm David Price.
Okay.
I'm David Price. I live at 205 Airway Church Road.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, sir.
The
Please
meeting
continue.
that the young gentleman headset on. Say again?
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
The meeting that gentleman with the headset on mentioned earlier, I believe around 2017, that Mayor Hill had conducted down at the Price Martin Center. I was there. And the thing that I shared with them, I'm a kind of a genealogy buff. Back in 2015, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had a lot of time to sit and trying to get well. And thank the Lord, he's got me there. One of the things that I did was I found out a lot about my history, past history. I have a great grandfather named Dick Tillis, and he had a brother. Can you hear me, Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir. I have you now, please, sir.
Okay. One of the people that run across in my history, my great-great-grandfather, Richard Tillis, was he lived in this county at a time, and he had a son named James Tillis. James Tillis was killed in battle He was captured in the Battle of Gettysburg. He was a prisoner of war in the Fort Delaware, and he died of smallpox. One of the things I pointed out at that meeting, I guess this statue means a lot to different people for different reasons. Some for, some against, but for me, it's like a stone. Back in those days, in the 1860s, 1870s, if you really look at the history of the war, people were sometimes buried where they fell in battle, if they even got burial. And that went for both sides. And one of the things that didn't happen very often was a reminder to make it home. But the people still needed a place to grieve. And I know it came many years later after the Civil War, but it took long, I believe, to raise the funds. And the members of the Confederate soldiers got together, they raised the funds. The county and the city didn't have anything to do with it that I know about. They raised the funds, and this county raised funds to wreck that many money. And it wasn't for who was right or who was wrong in the war. It was to place to memorialize the one who fell. To me, it's just walking out to the cemetery and that night and visiting my mother and father's grave. I wouldn't really want to do anything to their memorial stone at their grave no more than I would want anybody to mess with anybody's memorial. And that's the way I look at it. I know Mayor Hill had made the comment in that meeting night that he walks by it every day and it sickens him and disheartens him. But then you just had the lawyer say the same thing. That he walks by it and it doesn't bother him at all. I think the clear way to go here is actually let the county side, the people of the county, decide, and the only way to do that is put it a ballot. That might not be popular with everybody, but I believe whatever the majority, if the majority decides to move it or take it away, I'm okay with it. If the majority decides to let it stay, then I will separate the memorial where it's at. To me, it's a head-on. That's all I have to say. And God bless you all the decision you make.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Looks like the next person I have with her hand up is Misty Ray.
Hello, everyone. It's Misty Ray. Hello, commissioners. I'm going to give my personal address of 114 West Vivian, Hastings, Florida. I am in St. Johns County right now, but as many of you know, I was born and raised in Putnam County, one of the oldest families of Putnam County, and have residents with some of them do hold an opinion that the statue should stay and remain on the courthouse lawn. However, I feel like it should be moved and preserved in a more appropriate area, somewhere where, you know, right now where it's placed, like Mayor Hill has to pass by it to practice law. I know we had Craig on, and Craig's a lawyer and he doesn't get it. But I mean, I ask, like, how many minorities actually practice law in Putnam County and walk by that statue? Mayor Hill's exceptional for that, for reaching that status and putting up with that type of thing, and all of his accomplishments that he's done with that sort of, dealing with that sort of pressure. I feel like we need to come together. This is not it shouldn't be a black, white, female, male, left, right, Democrat, Republican thing. This should be a community issue. And as leaders of the community, I believe it rests upon the commission's shoulders to make the final call. Don't put it on the ballot. To me, it would cause more racial problems within not only that community, but surrounding communities. It's a decision that you all need to make. That's why we elect commissioners, is for that purpose. if they can't, to entrust you with important decisions. So yes, you should definitely be the ones to make the decision. And then I also say that I would like to know, was there a vote to put that there? Was there a vote to place the statue where it is? And if there was, who was allowed to vote on it during that time?
I don't know the answer to that.
Right. So, I mean,
may I speak?
Not yet.
I have no problem.
She's
I
not
feel
done.
like, you know, if we can come up with those answers, I know I've read multiple cases throughout the South of statues that are being similar to this one. This is not like a unique statue. There are other, it's just a replica. There are others that are the same model as that statue. And we are not asking to demolish this statue. We're not asking to remove history. We're asking to relocate it. I think relocating it into the Veterans Park is a great idea. The first time I heard that, but I think that also if we were to do it at the cemetery where other Civil War veterans are buried, that would possibly encourage people to go out there and clean that cemetery up. There are headstones that you cannot read. The cemetery is absolutely not very well maintained. And I think that since so many people are passionate about this statue, maybe they will get down there and, you know, show their efforts by paying attention to the other, the actual soldiers that are laying there buried. Also,
Misty, are you about to get there?
yeah, I'm pretty much done. That's basically my points on the topic, but I do entrust, I have faith in Commissioner Harvey and Carl Flagg, and you know that they are capable of making those decisions for the community.
Thank you very much for your comments, and Mr. Branham. Mr. Branham, did you wish to speak? Denny Branham.
I think it's showing Denny Branham because we live in the same household, but my name is Kevin Hancock.
Okay. Well, if
and
you,
I believe.
would you give us your address as well, please?
174 Kelly Smith School Road, Palatka, Florida, 32177.
Thank you, Kevin.
I think it needs to go to the ballot. Everybody should have a say in it, not by people who have not talked to everybody else. And I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Let's see, the next on the list I have is Lorraine Carr. Lorraine, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, please proceed.
A couple of things I would like to mention. One thing is the Common Ground group. Are they going to pay for the monument to be moved? And also, the fact that they're saying the monument is the blame for the downturn of St. John's Avenue is not fair. I was in business before, and I've never heard anybody come in my shop and say, I can't buy anything here because you got a Confederate statue on your courthouse lawn. So the other thing that has been getting lost in this discussion is the ladies that put the monument up. The community did know about it. There was no vote, but it was common knowledge. It was put up for the veterans that died in the war that were from Putnam County, and we had 11 soldiers that were alive at the time. Wilson Cypress Company donated money to it. The 3 banks in Palatka donated money to it. Everybody was involved in it. They knew about it. They celebrated it. American Legion Post was involved with it. The Masons were involved with it. The Reverend at St. James Methodist Church did a benediction at the unveiling and all. The ladies took the veterans down twice a year to the best hotel, hotel restaurant in town, which was the St. James Hotel, or James Hotel. And so everybody knew about these veterans that were alive, and that was what it was about. People from all over donated to it. The county people donated to it. Children donated to it. If your family was in Putnam County during 1924, 23, 24, they probably donated to it or went down to the celebrations for it, because it was a countywide celebration. There was 14,000 people there. There was parades. The stores were all decorated and everything. So for people to say that it has something to do with Jim Crow, slavery, and intimidation is wrong, because it had nothing to do with that. The ladies that put it up to honor and show love for the veterans, that the men that we lost from Putnam County and the ones that were still alive. They wanted to put it up before they all died and everything. There's descendants of those veterans in Putnam County today. There's descendants of people that donated in Putnam County today. There's descendants of the ladies, UDC, in Putnam County today. This was a community project, and it was our community history. And if you do decide to move it, I could accept that if it's a move to an appropriate place. But can the other side accept it if it's not moved? I don't know that they can, and all from the things that I hear. And so I would just ask you to please reconsider what our history of our community is. This is really our community history, that monument and all, because the whole community was involved in it. Mr. Ivers gave $1,000 to it. You know, we had generals living here. General Hart, he is the one that came up with the idea of the monument, and everybody celebrated it, because that was the way the things were back then in Putnam County. We didn't have people running around intimidating people of color and things like that. There was people of color that went to the celebration and all. So I would just ask you to consider the history of the monument when you're making your decision. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Lorraine. Is there anybody else now that would like to speak? Okay, there's nobody's hand raised, and I'm not hearing anybody. So at this time, I'm going to close public comment on this issue, and I'm going to open it up for deliberation from commissioners. And as Commissioner Harvey mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we're going to not make motions until each commissioner has had at least a chance to speak. And I think that's appropriate. So with that being said, Commissioner Harvey and Commissioner Goddard, if y'all could say something into the deal where you'll come back on my screen.
Okay, am I here?
Yes, sir. And Commissioner Harvey, if you could say something.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'm here.
Okay, good. Now I have the 5 commissioners on the screen. Commissioner Pickens dropped off. Commissioner Pickens, could you say something at this time, please?
Yeah, am I back on?
Yes, sir. You are now. Thank you. So I have all 5 commissioners on the screen. I'm going to, Commissioner Harvey, would you like to go first, sir?
I'll be glad to, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And I really want to thank you on running a great meeting in this time that we live in. And I want to thank all the speakers that took time and their effort to share their view. We learned a lot today. We've learned a lot in the last few months. We learned a lot about how people feel like they're being mistreated and some people who feel like they're not. You know, we've heard leave it, move it. When does it stop? We've heard about us making a decision versus the people making the decision. I don't have a problem making tough decisions. I think everybody on this call and everybody out there in the community understands that. My original goal was to put it out for a vote because I wanted the people to have a chance to say what they wanted. Did they want it moved? Did they want it kept? Did they want it moved to another location? But I'm concerned about the voting, and I'm concerned about the message that gets out there. I do want to say that I'm saddened that there are people that are still hurting out there. And I wish I could have heard from more of those prior to today. I mentioned that into a meeting yesterday. But I don't want to divide our county. I want to promote our county. And Commissioner Turner, I like the idea about relocating it. Not so sure East Palatka is the spot, but I'm not opposed to it. Commissioner Goddard, I like the idea of something that I think is a hybrid of what Commissioner Turner had said before, was the fact of maybe having it on the courthouse lawn with some other statutes to honor those people who have died. There's no doubt these statute and other statutes and other things that we have in our county are honoring those people who gave their life for the cause. No doubt about that. And unfortunately, that cause is tainted in this case. I grew up as a young boy in the Vietnam era, and I remember the protests there too. I was too young, way too young to even understand it, but I watched it on TV, and it was horrifying. But the men and women that served our country served with honor, and they had the ability to have their memorial, and I think that's a proper thing to do. So I would not have a problem, this commissioner, relocating it from where it's at right now onto the courthouse property or to another location, as long as we did not use taxpayer money. I think when we hear the Daughters of the Confederate had raised money for this, then we can easily, as a community, get together and do that. I don't have a problem putting it on the ballot for the people of Putnam County to do. But unfortunately, the minority population we have in our county is minuscule compared to the others. Now, that doesn't mean that that people can't put their views out there and gain support. They can, and we've already seen that happen. And I'm not trying to be wishy-washy. I'm truly saying this to be a commissioner. I want to hear from the people of Putnam County. I think we've heard that, and the overwhelming voice I've heard was to put it on the ballot. I'm not opposed to that, but I really like the idea of moving it to a location that it can be honorable and that the county can control. Cemetery, I'm not so sure we can control that, but Veterans Park, we own that. That's our park. It's already named Veterans Park. And I've been thinking about that since Commissioner Turner mentioned it. Kind of a fitting place, if you will, for a statue of that era to be looking out over the river, because I've been doing my own research, and the river was a pathway to this war. And I like what Mr. Sherrar said. I think that we need to change the narrative, and we need to talk about, we maybe don't need to change the plaques there on the bottom of it, but we can add a plaque that we don't ever want to go back through this again. We don't ever want to have our county, our country divided, but it is being divided, and it's being divided by radical views, maybe you could say on both sides. But I'm concerned of where our future is going. But I think we need to, as much as I love Save Rodman, for example, we need to have a plaque out there that we never want to dig a ditch across Florida again. And but now that we have an environment, we need to take care of it. So I like the idea of moving it. I like what I'm hearing. I like the idea from Commissioner Goddard about the courthouse, and I like the idea from Commissioner Turner to move it to Veterans Park with private funds and keep it there until that's raised. So I'm good with that. I'm good with relocation. I'm good with the courthouse, and I'm good with Veterans Park. And I'm equally as good as trusting our people that if they want to vote for this matter, that I would support that also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Which commissioner would like to go next?
I'd be more than happy to.
Commissioner Goddard.
All right, as I have been out here in the last 2 months talking to a lot of people, emails, letters that have been sent to me, going out to eat or going to Home Depot and still getting all these different views. Most say leave it right where it is. Some say move it. Absolutely move it. Move it anywhere, get rid of it, either throw it in a river or put it somewhere else. And then I've got a few that say put it on the ballot. We had a Revolutionary War here that we have some that are very proud of, and then if you talk to the right people, they're offended by it. But it happened. It did happen, and we need to look at that. As far as putting it on a ballot, here's my drawback on that. As the Electoral College helps represent both the large and the small states, instead of just representing the large populated states, I think if we put it on the ballot, it's going to be uneven. It's going to disenfranchise the smaller groups, and that's not representing the people. That's not fair. That's my biggest thing. We were elected to be representatives of this county, and I think as a representative, if we do that, we're doing an injustice. My personal opinion. I believe we're doing an injustice. I do believe we need to be, as they did on our Constitution, on a compromise. Most people want it to stay on that courthouse property. That's why I say leave it on the courthouse property. You got some that don't want it in the walkway. And they take it out of the walkway. I'm all for putting a plaque there that says this was bad. We'll never do this again. Our county does not go along with the rest of the county. We are a community, and that's the way we'll stay together. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Rawls, Commissioner Pickens, who would like to go next?
I'll go ahead and go.
Okay, Commissioner Pickens.
First, I want to say thank you for running a good meeting. These Zoom meetings are tough. I want to thank everybody who made comment. I want to thank President Pickens and Pastor Flagg for making their comments and presentation. I want to thank everybody that has emailed me. I think I got 25 emails after I got back from lunch today about their opinion and input on whether or not the statue should be relocated, left where it is, or put on the ballot. I also want to thank all the people that I reached out to me personally to give me their opinion. I'm concerned with a couple of things with this statute. The first thing I'm going to say is, I'll go say at the beginning, and I had a good conversation with Denisha and Tavel. And I made it clear to them that as a commissioner, I was disappointed in the way that this was presented to the county. It was a protest, and then the newspaper picked up, and then they came to the county commission. I don't think that's the way it should have happened, especially if they knew that the county commission had the decision-making power of what to do with this statute. So they understood that. But we did have a good conversation about it. I'm concerned for the statute itself, because everybody that I talked to, and I'm the one that said, you got two distinct sides. See my hands, you're either with us or you're with them. Doesn't matter which one. And it's us against them, okay? So But one thing that rang true from every single person that I talked to was they do not want to remove history, whether it's bad or whether it's good. So we've never said to destroy this monument. It was either to relocate it, leave it, or put it on the ballot. So and I'm not for putting it on the ballot. I was elected by the majority, but I was also elected by the majority to show leadership and to make tough decisions. Do I wish that this had been taken care of when it was brought up 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe? Yes, I do. But that's not what happened, and I'm not blaming anybody. This is what we have. This is a situation, what we have. We can't change that. But I was elected to make the decision, but also to represent all the people of Putnam County, whether it's the majority or the minority. So I truly believe that we need to make a vote on this, whether to leave it, whether to relocate it to Veterans Park. I'm not for relocating it in the cemetery. So that's where I am with those two. But I do believe it's the decision of the county commissioners. And I think we need to make a decision. I also would like to make a comment. If anybody has a problem with the time that my commissioners have taken, shame on you. You're not sitting in this seat. We are. And I take offense to it. I truly believe that there probably was an element of this that was going to bring this, have a protest, bring it to the commission because of the pressures of outside our county, outside our state, things that were happening that were totally negative and not really accomplishing anything but more division. And for us maybe to make a knee-jerk reaction to remove this, or make a knee-jerk reaction to go, no, we're going to leave it there, tough. I don't think that was fair. And I don't think it's fair for anybody to say that we've kicked this can down the road or taken too long. I think we've each taken our time to listen. Many times I've heard today, we want our voices heard. So I think that's what our commissioners did. And I respect each and every one of you for doing that. I do believe that it is time to have some type of decision and direction on how we are moving forward with the monument today. And for right now, that's all the comments I'm gonna make.
Mr. Pickens, Commissioner Rawls, did you have something to add, sir?
Yes, I do. So I just want to start off by saying no matter what happens today, not everyone is going to be satisfied. There's no situation that is going to satisfy both sides or all three sides or all four sides, however many sides are on this issue. I made a motion to put this on the ballot about a month ago. It died due to lack of second. I stand today firmly believing that this is not a legislative issue. This is a social issue that needs to be decided by the citizens that voted us into our positions. I don't think that we should have the decision-making unilaterally authority to do this, because at the end of the day, you're not representing both sides of the equation, all three sides or all four sides. You're only going to represent one side. I think the public needs to be the one. I think it's awfully pretentious of anybody who would sit here and tell us that if this is put out to the vote, like Reno Fells put on Facebook, that 80% of the white people are going to vote for this. This is not a white-black issue. In my estimation, this is a right or wrong issue. I really think this needs to go to the taxpayers. I think it needs to be settled by the taxpayers. It's not a legislative issue, like I said. One of the gentlemen said that if you don't move it, it's going to hurt some people. But I don't know has anybody even tallied the number of emails that we've received, because I've read every single one of them. And like Commissioner Harvey said, the overwhelming majority say they want to put this to a vote, let the public vote on it. But this is going to hurt someone no matter how this vote goes. Right, wrong, or indifferent, somebody's going to walk away from this saying, I didn't get what I wanted, they voted wrong, whatever. a referendum allows the voters to choose. There's enough time between now and the election in November. And based on what I'm saying, this, again, it's not a white-black issue because you have probably more folks that are white saying move the monument than are saying don't. So I would say if you put this out to the public, people might be shocked at what the outcome is. The outcome might be to actually move the monument, depending on how it's put on the ballot. Put it on that says, leave it, move it, move it, and remove it from Putnam County forever. I don't know what we put on the ballot, but I think this is a decision that needs to be handled by the public, not by us. I would also like to say that having these meetings virtually is very sterile. I think, you know, I asked Mr. Commander the other day why we have to meet, if we have to meet virtually. He said, no, this is our choice. So I think another choice we need to make today is to get back to a regular meeting place and start letting the public meet with us face to face and not have these issues with technology.
Commissioner Rawls, if you have 2 more votes to go along with you, we'll do that. Otherwise, we're going to meet virtually where the CDC says it's safe. You do realize we still have a 10-person maximum as far as what they asked to be here. And if we'd have had this meeting in person today, that would have been backed all the way out to the road in front of the complex here. So, you know, let's try to stay on subject, sir, if we possibly can, which is the statute.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, the virtual meetings I'm not in favor of. I take offense to the local community business leaders, Common Ground. When I asked for a list of the folks, what I got was almost, I guess, half the people that are in a group called Forward Putnam, but it's all chamber members. And I really think that, especially having members of the commission that are members of the Chamber of Commerce, that should have been shut down immediately. But the email that was sent from Dana Jones was sent to Terry Suggs. I would like to know how in the world one group like Common Ground gets to steal the show when Commissioner Pickens already had this put on the agenda. But it didn't say discussion about the monument, from Commissioner Pickens' request. It was a presentation by Common Ground, which again is a small group, and we're supposed to be governed by the people, for the people, of the people, not by the few, of the few, for the few. So I'll get off my soapbox right now. I am in favor of moving this to a ballot initiative that, for the public to decide. If not, my vote would be to leave it right where it sits now on the courthouse property.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rawls. And with that being said, I haven't seen anything here that changed my mind. I don't think this should go to the ballot. I think that we should make a decision today. I think that us just kicking the can down the road is not going to help a thing. I don't particularly care if we leave it right where it is and bow up, or we move it to the Veterans Park and try to do some kind of a small compromise. We already, except for the money that it would cost to move it to Veterans Park, which would be an appropriate place of honor and distinction in this county. It's still a piece of property that the county owns. We can protect it better in Veterans Park because it's not downtown. They can't go down there and decide to have a riot and knock all the windows out of Veterans Park because there's no windows there. And if we ask the private community to fund the movement of this statue, then we're not using taxpayers' dollars to do so. I think that that's the key. Leave it where it is. Start the private funding of the taxpayers' dollars, and as soon as we get the money, and at some point the commission may want to kick some money in if it's truly being funded in a great direction from the community, and I think that would be the place to put it. I just don't see any downfalls to that plan. And the number one thing is everybody I've talked to on both sides of the issue say the city can't be in control when we finish here. The city does not own Veterans Park. The county does. It's not going to cost us any additional money because we already maintain that park. So it's not going to cost anything other than the movement of the park itself. And if they decide to come riot over or protest the new one, I'm telling you right now, Peyton Manning couldn't throw a brick from there to downtown Palaca and knock a window out of one of them buildings. So what my whole point here is I don't know that we shouldn't try to compromise a little bit. And every time they have a protest or a rally or whatever you want to call it, it costs the county $20,000 to $30,000. So I know that it's not supposed to come in. The money's not supposed to come into an emotional issue. But sorry, guys, I'm not built like that. The money has to come in it for me. And if we have 10 more rallies between now and November and 5 more after that, because we know it's going to pass, for us saying it's not going to pass, that's just not a fair statement. So it's going to pass. So how many hundreds of thousands of dollars out of county money do we need to go down and put into protecting this statue until it's enough? Because it's not going to stop. It didn't stop over in St. Augustine through all these years. It has not stopped. And it's not going to stop here until some type of a compromise is reached. Now, right now, they've reached a compromise over there, and they sent it out to Randy Ringhaver's place out at the Trout Creek or wherever. We'll see what happens from there. I don't see what the difference is, or if any citizen in here in the county has a problem with moving it across the bridge. We're not talking about taking it to the cemetery or taking it to the city control somewhere. We're talking about moving it across the bridge to a honorable place of distinction for that statue to be. They could even have more monuments brought in from other places in the county if they wanted to. You want to go look at the monument because you feel that strongly about it, go get you a Subway sandwich and go down there and sit at one of the existing picnic pavilions and eat your sandwich and stare at that statue until you get done eating your sandwich. I'm just saying that we need to do something other than just kick the can down the road to the next election. I just don't see that as being the proper thing to do. Make a decision here today. If y'all want to bow up and leave it where it is, then let's stand up and bow up. If you want to come up with a compromise, then let's move it to Veterans Park, which is the most fitting place that I can come up with, or this commissioner can come up with after thinking about it for a month. Are we going to make everybody happy? No, we're not. We're not going to make them happy if we leave it. We're not going to make them happy if we move it. We're not going to make them happy if we put it on the ballot. Because if we put it on the ballot and it passes, which we all know it's going to, then we've still got to deal with it. We've still got to go down there and protect it. We've got to let the sheriff send deputies every time there's a rally on it. I'm just telling you, I think this commission needs to make a decision today to either leave it where it is and bow up about the whole issue or to move it somewhere. If y'all don't like Veterans Park, fine. I won't vote to move it to the cemetery or to the city control. But Veterans Park, the county owns. It won't cost any more once we get there. So with that being said, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity. I came into this meeting with an open mind, and I have my rathers, but I don't mind as you were talking. I was getting the vision of Private Jenkins Memorial down there with the Veterans Park. I was seeing as people were walking down the history of our county. And that's what I was envisioning as I was seeing that. I don't see taxpayer money. I think we can easily make this happen. This is a very giving community. Although people will say we're poor, we're not poor, we're rich. We're rich in history and we're rich in friendship and unity here. So I can see that taking place. I would suggest this, Commissioner Turner. Why don't we have, I think we're pretty much in agreement that relocation is probably going to be the topic of the day. Why don't we look at two scenarios? Why don't we look at Veterans Park as the first option? And let's look at another piece of property on our courthouse that's not in there. And let's have 2 alternates that we can go to. Right now, I'm leaning towards Veterans Park. I will tell you that. I like the idea of people going to see that. And I like the statute there. If that's agreeable, if people want to keep it at the courthouse, maybe we could have that as an alternate too, but it would have to be off to the side, not in the center of things. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you,
Can I
Commissioner
speak?
Harvey. Just a second, Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Rawls was holding his hand up right at the same time that Commissioner Harvey did. Commissioner Rawls.
Another option we have not discussed is moving the courthouse. The courthouse is in really bad shape. You've got a lot of repairs we need to make to it. It's got mold issues. Why don't we take a look at that? I think we need to put this on the ballot, let the citizens decide it, and then take a really meaningful look at moving our courthouse to a different location that better suits ourselves, saves us money, maybe put it out there by the jail where prisoners don't have to be transported. And then we could have a memorial at that place where the courthouse once stood that doesn't offend anybody. People don't go there for justice anymore. But I still think we need to take a look at this on the ballot. And I'd make a motion that we put this on the ballot to be voted by the citizens in November.
Commissioner Rawls, we all agreed before we made motions that we let the commissioners have the opportunity
We've all had our
to
opportunity to speak.
Well, no, sir, you have twice. Commissioner Goddard would like to speak, and he hasn't yet. But I'll definitely come back to you for your motion in just a minute, okay? Commissioner Goddard.
Okay, I'll throw in a comment. Our courthouse, yeah, it might need some problem, but there's nothing that looks any better in our town than that old courthouse. I hate to say that. Now, I think it needs some work, but no, I would not want to relocate it by any means. But I think by consensus for mostly, we're looking at the smart thing to do is to move that statue from its present location, whether it stays at the courthouse property or it goes to Veterans Park. But and I think those are both viable. I do. You know me, I'm leaning towards leaving it at the courthouse, but I think what we need to do is possibly, I'm thinking with people understanding where we stand right now, I don't think we need to make this decision this moment. It can actually wait till our next meeting to actually make this decision one way or the other. And in that time, if it's going to be like what I've seen here, I'll have 200 emails saying yay or nay or what they like or they didn't like me or whatever the reason is. I think we're going to get plenty of information. I think we're going to get good information. I really do. I don't think this is a decision, even though it may seem like kicking it down the road, we're not. We're making good decisions. We're getting good information. And this is a very important decision. I think that if we've put this out there and we'll wait and see what the people have to say. Again, that goes back to representing the people. I get a whole lot of emails from a lot of people. So let's do this.
So your suggestion, Commissioner Goddard, is to table this until the September 8th meeting?
Yes, sir.
Well, you need to understand, and that's fine with me because I'm not for it anyhow. If we move it to the September 8th meeting, we will not, the ballot, putting it on the ballot will be off of the table. Well, I don't either, Commissioner. I just want everybody to understand that if we move it to September 8th, that issue will be off the table. That's why we moved it till today, because we have until 3 days from now to come up with the language to put it on the ballot, or it can't be included in the vote. And that's why we moved it to the 25th. So I'm with you, Commissioner Goddard. I don't want it on the ballot either, but I think it was up my duty to say that. Commissioner Pickens, did you have your hand raised, sir?
Yeah, Buddy threw another wrench in there with moving this to the other meeting. If this thing is relocated, I truly believe that the county should not fund this.
I don't think we'd have to.
The group that requested it needs to come up with some funds, business leaders, the attorneys group, chamber. I think it needs to be private funds. I think private funds erected it in the first place, and So I think it should be private funds. When Commissioner Turner mentioned moving it to the Veterans Park, I don't know if I was for that. I'm not for putting it in the cemetery. But if we could make something nice and relocate it at the Veterans Park, I think I could go with that, but I'd have to see some kind of a plan of where it's going to go, how it's going to look, and those type things, and maybe whatever else will be allowed to be put there. So that's all I have right now. Commissioner, why would we not go ahead and vote on this now? Or at least a consensus that then we would have to vote on it in September? Is that what you're talking about? I'm not understanding that one.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
If you're asking me, I'm looking at it in that stretch of time. You're going to get a whole lot of different views. Right now, we've been getting views: leave it, move it. Okay. Now we're saying, if we're going to say we might relocate it, and this is where we might relocate it, or this might be where we relocate it, I think you're going to get a lot of input by the citizens as to where it should go. I just think it allows them to give us this information differently than putting it on the ballot. It gives them the opportunity to actually speak to us and give us their opinions, and I think we can make a better decision.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Harvey, I see your hand raised, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Goddard, when you mentioned moving it at the courthouse at a different location there, share your vision with me on where that would be at.
Actually, my vision was just to move it over with there's a couple other monuments there, and I'm thinking moving it over on the grass there. And I've actually had some contractors tell me they would help put money forward to move it over there. So it still stays on. It's still on courthouse property, but it's not right in the walkway. If it's something that offends you, you don't have to look at it. It's not right there for you to look at. You just walk in, do your business, and get back out of there. You want to go see the monument, walk across the grass and go look at it. But I think because it was originally placed on the courthouse property, I feel strongly that it needs to stay on courthouse property. Maybe not in right in the walkway, but still stay on the courthouse property. That's what I'm getting. That's what I feel.
Mr. Chairman, what I'm hearing today is, I think we're going to decide. I think we're deciding relocation is what I'm hearing, and I'm hearing almost a consensus, close to a consensus of that. But with that in mind, I like the idea of what I mentioned a few minutes ago. If we're going to do that, I'd like to see an artist drawing. We can make a decision today to relocate. We don't have to go relocate today, but we can make that decision that we want to explore those two areas and come back with some type of rendition of what that would look like. Again, Commissioner Turner, I got really excited when you were talking about Veterans Park over there, because I can see people fishing beside Private First Class Jenkins, who gave his life for this country and for his fellow man, and they're fishing for food, and he was fishing for men. I can see that taking place. But I can also see a dedication at the courthouse where people who choose to go there don't have to, if they want to go to the monument like you do in Washington, D.C., if you want to go there, you go to the monument. You're not forced to be there. So I think that we should look at today, number one, we're talking statute, we're not talking tree, we're talking relocation, and then we're talking two possible scenarios of what that would be. We all agree private money should be involved. So I would like to see us going forward today, we say, yeah, we're going to look at relocation. And then this is what it looks like going forward. We have 2 possible locations for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Harvey. I just don't feel, just a second, Commissioner Rawls, please. I just don't feel like moving it from one side of the courthouse to the other is going to make any difference. I think that we're going to have to make some compromise if we're going to try to diffuse this issue. And I think the Veterans Park, I just don't know of another place of honor and distinction in our county other than Veterans Park. And like you said, I think that it would be very appropriate to some point put up a statue of Private Jenkins. I think that he was one of the proudest heroes that we have in this county.
Yes.
And so I think that would be a good place to start that whole issue over there. And like I said, it would diffuse the downtown situation also and should stop a lot of the concerns. I don't mind having an artist rendering. I just think we need to go on and decide. And if we move this forward, we've decided that we're going to do something, because it can't go on the ballot if we don't have the language by Friday to the supervisor of elections. So that's what I was told. And so I say we vote today to in favor of relocating it to Veterans Park.
Chairman.
Yes.
I thought we weren't going to take motions and liberty.
I haven't made a motion, sir.
It sounds like you're making one.
Well, I can't make one. If you had the ability to run a meeting, you'd know that I can't.
You can pass that gavel.
No, sir. I'll be coming back. I haven't passed the gavel though, so I can't make a motion. I'm just saying what we're talking about. And with that, I'm going to let you speak, Mr. Rawls. Go right ahead.
I've heard the terms. It sounds like we're running away from something. We're afraid of what may happen. Therefore, we're going to move this statute, make a decision today, rather than giving the people the input that have requested it. An overwhelming majority of the people that sent us emails, text, Facebook messages have all said the same thing. Let the voters decide. We're fixing to crap on what the majority wants in favor of a minority that we're in fear of for some reason. And you keep saying, we're going to put it in Veterans Park. Well, is the argument next going to be that they can't go fishing over there because the statue's there and it offends them? There was a comical thing somebody put on Facebook today. It said, Muslims are afraid of bacon. They abhor split-hoofed animals and they don't eat bacon. Are we going to remove bacon? So I personally think it's time that we put this before the public. We are dealing with adults. They can ramp up their sides. They can petition the voters either way they want, and the voters can decide. Not all voters that are white are going to vote to leave the monument where it is. Not all voters that are black are going to vote to move the monument either. I think this is a decision that needs to be made by the voters. But
okay, well, I'll take your motion. I'll take your motion at this time. I'll make a motion
that we put this on the ballot in November. The language has already been drafted by our legal counsel, and let's let the public decide this, as so many of them have asked us to do.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Rawls. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Thank you.
So now I think we do need to make a decision of some sort today. I don't think we just need to keep kicking this can down the road. And unless somebody can come up with something more appropriate, I think the motion needs to be made that we need to look into moving it to Veterans Park, and we need to start a fund of private money to do that. And when the money's there, we can move it to that park. County will still own it. County will still maintain it. I just don't understand the problems with that. And I can defend that to somebody that calls me up and tells me that I should have put it on the ballot. Because I haven't just been getting put it on the ballot. I've been getting put it on the ballot. I've been getting all kind of different options on this thing, not just put it on the ballot. Put it on the ballot's probably 40%. The rest of them are don't move it, leave it right where it is. Don't even bother putting it on the ballot. And the rest of them are move it to Veterans Park, or move it somewhere. And I came up with Veterans Park because it's an area of honor and distinction, trying to come up with a compromise that may work. Commissioner Harvey, did you have something, sir?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion that we look at relocating the statue to Veterans Park and East Palatka with raising private monies and keeping it right where it is until that time that we can raise enough money to do that and to protect the statute at the same time.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have for a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Harvey and a second by Commissioner Pickens to look into moving it to Veterans Park in East Palatka. And what was the other part of your motion, Commissioner Harvey, with using private funds?
Yeah, and keeping it in place until we have that.
And keeping it right where it is until we have the money to move it. Okay, is there any further discussion on that?
I have some discussion.
Commissioner Pickens?
A lot of opinions have been talked about today, and a lot of opinions, you know, we've got the emails and everything. So, but I do believe that that something needs to be done. I am more concerned with the separation of people in Putnam County if something's not done. I think, Mr. Goddard, we're going to hear a lot of input on where to put it. And we might hear a lot of input about where they want to put us after the decision we make. But I truly believe that this is a decision for the elected official to make, as tough as it is. I do believe that we need to talk about this after the vote, probably at our next workshop, of how we're going to move forward with this, is because it needs to be, that park probably needs to be upgraded a little bit, especially if we're going to move this particular monument there. You know, talk about, you know, hopefully a monument of Mr. Jenkins, and then maybe other veterans that we could put in there. So it needs to be a very nice place. And I know we've done a lot of work after the hurricane to get it back where it's usable. So I think we need to, you know, continue to move this. But I do think we need to go on and vote on it today. That's all I have.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
Well, if I could.
Yes, sir.
I go back to the same thing. I still wish that, I think that if we could have the motion that we have agreed that we're going to relocate it. I just have a hard time with saying we're just going to move it here. Again, I've had a lot of people that want to leave it at the courthouse. So I have a hard time just saying move it to one spot. I think I'd like to see us modify that motion where we're saying we're going to move it. We're going to relocate it, but where? I think I just don't see that we have to make that decision. We've made a tough decision saying whether we're going to move it or not move it. I just have a hard time saying we're absolutely going to move it to Veterans Park, which is not a bad idea, versus the courthouse. That's my thing. I have a hard time with that.
Commissioner Goddard, there's nothing that says that we can't discuss this issue further at the next meeting. The only thing that's off the table after today for 2 more years is placing it on the ballot. So if someone can come up with a better solution, I'm all ears. I've given it all the thought I can and tried to come up with some kind of a solution, and I don't know where would be more appropriate or fitting than taking it to Veterans Park in East Palatka. And as far as moving it from one side of the courthouse to the other side of the courthouse, why even bother? So I think that if we're going to move it, that we just need to move it across. Commissioner Rawls, did you have a comment, sir?
Since you don't seem to have a strong consensus, why don't you form a committee, let the committee decide where to move it to, and let the citizens have input?
We can do that if y'all want to, but the motion on the
Good with
floor, the motion on the floor at this time is to look into moving it to Veterans Park. Along with that, I don't mind appointing a committee if this commission wants me to do so, to look into doing that as well as other options, if that's what the commissioner wishes. Commissioner Harvey.
Would you like me to amend my motion that we could maybe not have a site specific if we're going to be entertaining a selection committee?
I'd be good with that.
Would the second be good with that?
Yeah, I'll amend that because I think that is, and then we could talk about maybe having input of where, but ultimately I think it will come down to our decision. But I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of input, probably starting as soon as we vote on this. So,
Commissioner Harvey.
I'll amend my second.
And also, I think it would be fitting then if every commissioner had an opportunity to appoint people to that committee.
Okay.
Good with that one too.
Whatever you want to do, sir.
I think that every commissioner should have the opportunity to appoint two, and the chair should have the opportunity to appoint an extra at large.
When a lot of times when you get positions of 10 or more, it makes it very difficult to make any kind of decisions. Commissioner Harvey, could we go one per commissioner and one additional at large and try to keep it down to 6?
I'll do what the group.
No, sir, I'll do what you want to do. If y'all want to have more, I'll put 30 people on there if that's what you want to do. It don't matter to me.
Okay,
but you'll never get anything done.
I like two per commissioner, and the chair gets an extra at large.
Okay, we're good. Yeah. So the motion on the floor is we are gonna vote today to move the monument using private funds, and we're going to have a citizens committee to decide where to move it to. Is that correct?
Good.
Correct, sir.
Okay, that's the motion. Is that the second, Commissioner Pickens?
Yes. To give us direction on where to move it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. To give us recommendations on where to move the monument to. Okay. Right. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Well, damn, Jeff, we gave you exactly what you wanted and you still voted against it? Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
I'm going to back up 4 no's. No. I did not get any close to where I wanted. The public didn't get what they wanted. What I wanted was to put this to the public and let them vote whether or not they want to move it or not. But what I wanted to do was just break up with the monotony. I don't think we should be running away from something and be scared of anything, but the votes happen. It's going to get moved. Thank God we're going to have a committee decide where to move it.
Thank you for your input. I just thought giving you the committee was help, but whatever. Okay. Is there anything else to come before the commission today?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Harvey.
You know, I really appreciate this meeting today. I know it was tough on all of us. I know we all didn't get what we wanted. We came in, we listened. I don't think anybody's minds were made up. I appreciate the public contacting us, and I'm sure they're going to more. I like what Commissioner Pickens said, though. I do believe that sooner than later, sometime in September, we have to have a workshop based on how we get this going and make some hard and fast rules on it. So, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Is there any, I didn't ask for administrator and lawyer comments. Do y'all have anything today? Terry, do you have anything?
No, sir, I do not. Thank you.
Rich Commando, do you have anything?
No, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Okay. I'm assuming that the commissioners have already had all the comment they want. If not, raise your hand or something. Seeing none, I'm going to adjourn this workshop. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Have a good week.